Chapter 756. The woman chasing after him just stood there coldly. Go ahead. If you jump down from here, it'll save me a lot of trouble. Charlotte and Cindy watched the melodramatic scene before them. The girl sitting on the railing. You can just jump down or jump down. Why don't you just come down? The hearts of the audience like us are shaking along with you. Rossetti, you weren't like this before. The girl sitting on the railing was very sad, tears streaming down her face. You had the chance to be with me, but you gave up the chance Master gave you. Charlotte and Cindy exchanged glances. They had a vague feeling. The woman called Rossetti was very similar to them. She was like a witch controlled by the fallen source. She was filled with coldness towards the past, without any ripples. Giselle, you have one last chance. Go back with me and pledge your loyalty to the director. I will never pledge my loyalty to that demon. He killed your mother, Rossetti. How can you do this? From the moment she refused to serve the director, she was no longer my mother. Giselle couldn't understand what kind of magic that demon had. Why had he turned her senior sister into a different person? He was so cruel that it made people's hair stand on end. Even when her own mother was killed, he was still so cold and heartless. Charlotte and Cindy, on the other hand, knew how they felt about Rossetti. Because they had also become such people. That twisted way of thinking had already turned them into another kind of person. I will never conspire with you. Even if I die, I will fight that demon to the end. One day, I will kill him. Just then, Rossetti's palms flashed with electricity. Looks like you've given up your last chance. Rossetti pointed at Giselle. Then you can die. Hey, did you guys forget about us? Cindy suddenly reminded. Rossetti and Giselle turned to look at Charlotte and Cindy. It wasn't that they didn't see them, but that they had treated them as ordinary people. Giselle felt that after she was killed, they would also be silenced. But just then, a water ball suddenly appeared above Rossetti's head. The water ball fell and enveloped Rossetti within it. Rossetti struggled violently. The water ball was pure water, and she couldn't breathe at all. At the same time, a stone all appeared behind the water ball. Poochie, the stone all pierced through Rossetti's body. Then, she lost consciousness. You killed her? You killed Rossetti? Giselle was caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. A moment ago, Rossetti wanted to kill her, but the next moment, it was Rossetti who died. What? Are you pitying her? She wants to kill you. Charlotte coldly looked at Giselle. Giselle hesitated for a long time. She looked at Charlotte and Cindy's eyes. Suddenly, Giselle's expression changed. You are the same as Rossetti. You are also fallen. That's right, us too. Charlotte did not deny it. But why? If you're the same as Rossetti, why did you kill her? Because we got rid of its control, Charlotte said calmly. You can get rid of control after turning into a fallen? Giselle looked at the two women in confusion. Of course. We're an example. How did you do it? Did you use some special magic? No, because our situation is a bit special. The source of the fallen was once injured, which greatly weakened its control over us. If you want to see the result, go to Los Angeles. Perhaps there's someone there who can fulfill your desire for revenge. Of course, that person might not be able to stop the source of the fallen. Los Angeles? There's an abnormally powerful being there. He once defeated the source of the fallen, and the source of the fallen hates him to the core. The source of the fallen has been hunting and corrupting witches all over the place just to fight him, Charlotte said. Giselle's eyes flickered as she looked at Charlotte and Cindy. She doubted their words. Giselle had a deep understanding of the terrifying source of the fallen. It was a terrifying existence that had never been seen before. There was no one who could defeat such a monster. Now, from their tone, it seemed that there really was someone who could defeat the source of the fallen. And the source of the fallen was currently corrupting witches everywhere just to deal with that person. Was that even possible? Then where are you going? We're going to escape Los Angeles and this country. Why? Because we're traitors of the source of the fallen and enemies of that person. Giselle got off the boat in San Francisco. She chose to believe the two women's words. If there was really going to be a war in Los Angeles, she definitely couldn't miss it. She had to watch the source of the fallen be destroyed or destroyed with her own eyes. Then, she took a plane to Los Angeles. Giselle had just left the airport and was about to hail a car when she suddenly heard a beeping sound not far away. Giselle turned around and saw a boy around 15 or 16 years old. He was holding a strange device in his hand, which seemed to be the source of the beeping sound. When she looked at the boy also looked at her. Giselle walked towards the boy, who seemed to be afraid of her. He turned around and ran into a car. Elite, hurry up and drive. I found a witch. It's so scary. This witch has more than 200 magic power. She's at least C rank. Hearing that, Elite didn't plan to stay. He was just about to start the car when he realized that the engine was off. Turning around, he saw Giselle leaning against the car window and looking at them. Who are you? Do you know me? No, Elite hurriedly said. Beep, beep, beep. The device in Moore's hand was still beeping. It was the third generation of the magic power testing device developed by Jalag and Padalu. It could detect a person's magic power from several meters away. They all knew that there would be a war in Los Angeles soon, so they were now stationed at the port, train station, and airport to see if there were witches or paranormal people coming from Los Angeles. They also investigated if there were any fallen ones. Moore and Elite were in charge of the airport, but they didn't expect to be discovered on the first day. Chapter 757. Moore and Elite didn't dare to resist. They directly handed the device to Giselle. What's this? Magic testing device. 205. This is my magic value? Yes. Giselle soon figured out how to use the magic power measuring device. She tested it on Moore and Elite and found that their values were quite low. Who are you? We're members of the Supernatural Organization, Mississippi. Our mission is to investigate every paranormal who comes to Los Angeles. We mean no harm. Giselle nodded and returned the device to them. Every city had its own rules. In the past, when they went to other cities, they would also be investigated by the local supernatural forces. Miss, are you interested in going to our organization to do a more accurate magic level evaluation? We can give you the most professional evaluation, as well as a certificate and status symbol. Yes, Mississippi, look, this is the ring that represents my level. They both shook the gray rings on their fingers. The Supernatural Organization? Yes. Sure. Let's go. Giselle nodded. She also wanted to find out more about the supernatural forces in Los Angeles. In fact, Moore and Elite also wanted to confirm if Giselle was a fallen. Although the device could measure magic power, it couldn't tell if someone was a fallen. The two brought Giselle to the Supernatural Organization. Giselle followed them and got out of the car. At that moment, Giselle saw a tall woman brandishing an incomparably large sword. Moreover, the huge sword was emitting a heart-palpitating flame. It wasn't an ordinary flame. It was a flame that could even destroy souls. The sword danced in front of Giselle from a distance of more than 10 meters. Giselle felt the burst of mana from the sword's edge. Giselle didn't just feel magic power. She also felt the power of destruction. It's her! It's her! The two women said that the one who could fight against the fallen was her. Giselle looked at Giselle with bright eyes. What's her name? Giselle. She's the strongest member of the Supernatural Organization. By then, Giselle had already finished her practice. She stabbed the sword into the ground. More Angelite, who is she? Gaia, she's the witch I met at the airport. She wants to have a magic test. Oh, just in time. I also want to test my magic power. I feel like my strength has improved a lot recently, Gaia said. Hi, I'm Giselle from Denver. Denver. It seems like there was a rainstorm there. Yes, many people died, Giselle said meaningfully. Let's test our magic power first, Gaia said. Miss Giselle, There are many free magic power assessment services. Please pay 10,000 US dollars first. Do you pay by card? Of course. An elite excitedly took Giselle's card. By the way, I sell insurance in my spare time. Miss Giselle, do you want to buy an insurance policy? 205 magic power, rank C. Miss Giselle, this is your magic ring. An elite handed a ring to Giselle. Excellent. Indeed, in the entire supernatural organization, only Gaia could compare to Giselle. Of course, there was also their terrifying president. However, in the hearts of the association members, their president could not even be considered a human. Silver ring? Miss Gaia, what level is your red ring? I'm rank B, Gaia said. But just then, she held the ball on the testing device with both hands. Just then, the number on the device started soaring. Wow, 588 magic power. Gaia, you're so strong. You're improving so fast. You're already rank A. An elite gave Gaia a golden ring, which Gaia was very satisfied with. Giselle looked at Gaia with admiration. Miss Gaia, you fought a very, very strong monster before, right? Gaia was stunned. Are you a fortune teller? Seeing that Gaia did not deny it, Giselle was even more certain that Gaia was that person. Miss Gaia, I want to be your servant. Sorry, I can't accept it. Why? Is it because I'm not strong enough? No, because I don't think I have the right to have a servant. No, you do? No matter what you say, I won't accept it. Just then, the door outside was pushed open. Giselle realized that there was an Asian standing outside. Where's West? Chen Zhao asked. Where did that asterisk show go? Chen, why are you looking for West? Fishing, Chen Zhao said. Gaia rolled her eyes. She did not believe that Chen Zhao wanted to go fishing. Chen Zhao was never the kind of person who was willing to spend hours sitting in front of a fishing rod without moving. Usually, he could not even stay in the same position for 3 minutes in a meeting. Different from Gaia, Giselle glanced at Chen Zhao. She already saw him as a passerby. Chen Zhao was probably like more an elite, a marginal figure in the supernatural organization. By the way, is that big sword you just made? Yeah, I just got it today. Fuck, where's mine? Why did you promise me that you would make a set of weapons for me? I even asked for the weapons to be made with my own money, but yours is paid for by the association. Why is it so unfair? Giselle thought to herself, how can you compare to Gaia? Gaia is the most powerful fighter in the supernatural organization. You want a weapon too? Don't you have a weapon? I'm not giving it to myself, Chen Zhao said. It's for my new pet. That gorilla? Yeah, it's in LA. By the way, who is she? Giselle, a witch. Hello, Miss Witch. Where are you from? Giselle turned her head away, her expression arrogant. Chen Zhao pursed his lips, a little annoyed. Tell West that if he doesn't appear before me in 10 minutes, I'll throw him into the ocean to feed the fish. President, I'm here. West's voice came from outside. Did you do what I told you to do? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, I did. The weapon is outside. As they spoke, they left. That man is your president? Giselle asked. Yes. What kind of wizard is he? Him? I guess he's a druid. Our president is really powerful. He's my idol. Moore's eyes were filled with admiration. All right, Chen isn't here, so you don't have to suck up to him. Gaia rolled her eyes. Giselle was even more certain that even Gaia didn't care about the president. Chapter 758. President, it's ready. I found an island for you. That island will have cumulonimbus clouds this afternoon. I've also found someone to rain the rain. They'll shoot dry ice bombs at 8 at night above the island, West said. The rain will last for about 2 hours. Chen Zhao nodded. He had to go home too and bring King Kong to the island. At noon, Chen Zhao took King Kong out to sea. The island West found for Chen Zhao wasn't far. It was less than 200 nautical miles from Los Angeles. However, the island was a coral reef. It was very small, only 3 to 4 square kilometers. King Kong, start setting up the magic array. The two chose an empty space. King Kong was in charge of setting up the magic array while Qin Zhao was in charge of creating the lightning device. The magic array had a diameter of more than 10 meters. Qin Zhao couldn't understand it. He waited until 8 o'clock at night, waiting for the rain to come. Just then, the wind started to get stronger. Thunder boomed in the sky. Qin Zhao stood in the center of the magic array. King Kong was in charge of the array. There were 3 lightning rods around him. The wires of the 3 rods were all connected to the magic array. The first thing that came down was the rain. The heavy rain came down with a loud crash. King Kong controlled the magic array as if he was dancing. Then he started waiting for the lightning to strike. Master, there will be lightning today, right? There should be. Qin Zhao wasn't very sure either. Suddenly, thunder boomed in the sky. It's coming! Get ready! Master, use all your strength! Boom! The lightning didn't hit the magic array. Qin Zhao was discouraged. Wait for the next one. Boom! It didn't hit the array again. Qin Zhao stood in the rain for 2 hours. Then the lightning didn't even hit the array. Qin Zhao went from standing to sitting. In the end, he just lay on the magic array. Seeing that the rain was about to stop, Qin Zhao completely gave up. Boom! Suddenly, a lightning bolt landed on the magic array without any warning. The array immediately shone with dazzling light. Qin Zhao felt all the electricity pass through his body. Qin Zhao jumped up. The electricity seemed to have touched something in his body. The lightning didn't do much damage to him. Qin Zhao's current fitness was extraordinary. They were dozens of times stronger than ordinary people, and they also had magic resistance. This kind of lightning couldn't deal fatal damage to him at all. King Kong, how was it? Did you succeed? Master, it failed. King Kong shook its head. What? Failed? Why? So I took that hit for nothing? Master, the power of the lightning is too weak. All the steps are enough, but it didn't activate the power factor in your body. So, as long as the power is large enough, it will work. Qin Zhao thought about generating electricity, but King Kong rejected the idea. This won't work. Only when the lightning pierces through the heavens and earth, carrying the elements of the world and channeling them into the body, will it be effective. Forget it, failure is failure. Let's go home. Qin Zhao was disappointed, but he was prepared to fail. After Qin Zhao and King Kong left, the demon horns around the magic formation suddenly shattered. President, did the spell you wanted to cast last night succeed? West asked. I failed. Qin Zhao was in a bad mood. Originally, he went with high hopes. But the result was not satisfactory. I don't want to hear any bad news today. Usually, Qin Zhao would transfer the unhappiness to someone else when he didn't want to deal with it. Where's the weapon I wanted? It's done, West said immediately. He didn't want to become Qin Zhao's target. President, there's another piece of good news. Tell me. The witch called Giselle, who came to our association yesterday, is willing to join our association. Our association has added another member. She has sea-level magic power and is able to control machinery. Did you find out her background? Not yet. You dare to bring her into the society without investigating? Who gave you this much power? Don't you have to go through me when new members join? What if she's a fallen? Then I'll go tell her now and reject her joining. Are you stupid? There are so few people in the society now and you're pushing a rank sea witch out. Are you going to rely on the few of you to support the society? West was about to cry. Then what should I do? Bring Giselle to my office. I'll interrogate her personally and find out her true intentions. Oh, I'll go tell Giselle. West escaped from Qin Dao's office. Qin Zhao was clearly going to use them today. Every 15 minutes in front of Qin Zhao was another 15 minutes of danger. A while later, Giselle came to Qin Zhao's office. President. Giselle looked at Qin Zhao. Her eyes were filled with pride. To her, the man before her was trash. Just like most members of the supernatural organization. However, Gaia alone was enough for the society. I heard that you're from Denver? Yes. I heard that Denver suffered some kind of attack. Not only did the city flood, but the supernatural world also suffered great losses. That's right. A trace of sorrow appeared in Giselle's eyes. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yes, I know. The source of the fallen. Then you also know that the source of the fallen can control witches and distort their thoughts, right? I know. Then how can I guarantee that you're not a controlled fallen? A while later, Giselle walked out of Qin Zhao's office. West stood outside the door. Giselle, how did it go with the president? The president already accepted me, Giselle said. Oh, that's good. Oh, how did you prove it to the president? I told him that I'm willing to give him $100,000 as long as he doesn't question or harass me. West's eyeballs almost popped out. That's possible? Okay, you can go. After Giselle left, West entered Qin Zhao's office. President, why did you do that? Didn't you say that you wanted to test Giselle? Did you buy you over with $100,000? Of course not. Think about it. If she's a fallen and controlled by the source of the fallen, with its hatred for me, will he give me $100,000? But, no buts, Qin Zhao said. You don't understand the source of the fallen. With his hatred for me, he won't compromise with me, even if he's just pretending. I know him well. The $100,000 isn't the deciding factor. It's his attitude. Chapter 759. If you give me $1,000, then I'll definitely be a fallen one. Why? $1,000 is definitely an insult to me. West was speechless at Qin Zhao's words. You're the boss. You call the shots. It could be said that Giselle despised that president to the extreme. He was bought over with just $100,000. She even thought that it wasn't worth it. Perhaps $1,000 was enough to shut him up. After returning home, Qin Zhao took out the weapon that was specially made for King Kong. It was just a big hammer. It wasn't made specially. Other than its size, there was nothing special about it. The hammer weighed 5 tons and the rod was 4 meters tall. King Kong didn't have any other moves. He just used the hammer to smash. It was very powerful. Recently, the wind in L.A. had been getting stronger and stronger. The weather forecast said that a storm would hit Los Angeles in the near future. Qin Zhao also had the last meeting before the storm. You know the situation now. I won't say more. Qin Zhao looked at everyone. Qin Zhao glanced at the crowd. This has nothing to do with the supernatural organization. Don't look for trouble. Everyone, go home and find your mothers. No matter what happens outside, it has nothing to do with you. From today onwards, we'll have a week off. If the storm continues for a long time, the holiday will be postponed. President, how can we do that? Isn't the supernatural organization supposed to protect normal people? Giselle couldn't take it anymore. She stood up and argued with Qin Zhao. The people in the Middle East also live in the water, Qin Zhao said. If you want to, you can go there. Qin Zhao ignored Giselle. Everyone has a family and a job. Take care of your family and friends first, then protect world peace. Gaia, you too. Gaia didn't speak. She just sat there with her arms crossed. She didn't even look at Qin Zhao. She knew that Qin Zhao planned to do it alone. No matter what she said now, Qin Zhao would stop her. He would even chase her out of L.A. directly. Instead of being stopped by Qin Zhao, it was better to just keep quiet. Giselle looked at Qin Zhao in disdain. She didn't speak either. After a few more words, Qin Zhao ended the meeting. Giselle found Gaia. Gaia, do you know how to act alone? Gaia looked down at Giselle and said, Listen to the president. This isn't something you can participate in. Hide yourself well and don't go out. Gaia's reply made Giselle even more certain that Gaia was going to act alone. The windy weather affected the operation of Los Angeles to a certain extent. However, Chen Zhao was quite happy. Angel Beach had also issued a warning, so Fei Lai was on holiday. The wind at Mirror Lake was rather strong today. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai both swam in the lake. Fei Lai, I suddenly wish there were a few storms like this in L.A. every year. If L.A. comes here a few times every year, how much money would we lose? Fei Lai rolled her eyes. Chen Zhao didn't care. It wasn't like he was losing money. After getting out of the water, the inferior demons brought them towels. Chin, why don't we go to Sacramento for a few days while L.A. is having a storm? Chen Zhao glanced at Fei Lai. I still have some things to do in L.A. You look forward to my holidays every day, but in the end, you still haven't put down your work. Chen Zhao smiled wryly. If this wasn't resolved, they would never have peace. Fei Lai could vaguely feel that this might be like what happened in New York. She felt bad for Chen Zhao, so she hoped that they could go to Sacramento for a few days. It's just a small matter. Chen Zhao chuckled. Why don't you stay at Fei Lai's for a few days? Oh, bring Princess and the others too. No, I don't want to go out these days. Fei Lai didn't want to leave Chen Zhao's side this time. No matter what, she wanted to be with him. Chen, the atmosphere in L.A. is a bit off recently. Sienna called to ask. Is something going to happen? Indeed, something will happen. Try not to go out. Oh, stay with Rupert. It's best if you go out and play for a few days before coming back. No, Sienna said. If there's really something, then I can't leave, Sienna said. Movich Tuda's company can't do without me. Okay, whatever. But if you run into danger, don't get into a fight. If you feel that something's wrong, run or tell me directly. Got it. Chen Zhao told all his friends. Those who could listen would listen. Those who couldn't, there was nothing he could do. That night, it started to drizzle in L.A. However, it was very light, just a hazy drizzle. It didn't affect L.A.'s normal order. Just like that, it drizzled for 2 days without stopping. It didn't seem to be getting heavier either. Mr. Chen, are you busy now? Li Qing called Chen Zhao's number. No, I don't have anything to do these 2 days. What's up? Mr. Ethan's rheumatism is acting up. He can't stand up straight. He doesn't want to trouble you, so I want to ask if you have time to come over and take a look at him. Sure, no problem. Chen Zhao agreed at once. After telling Fei Lai, Chen Zhao drove off. Because of the rain, there seemed to be more guests at the hotel. Ever since the fire, the hotel had been renovated. Many facilities were .d2. Now, the hotel was a bit better. Ethan's business started to improve too. When Chen Zhao arrived at the hotel, Li Qing was in charge of the front desk. When Chen Zhao arrived at Ethan's room, the old bastard was still having sex. Fuck, I heard from Ms. Li that you're about to die. Fuck, why are you here? Ethan stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Why didn't you call me when your rheumatism is acting up? It's just a small problem, Ethan said in boredom. I really should fire Li. I've already ordered her not to call you, Ethan said uninterestedly. Chen Zhao couldn't do acupuncture on Ethan while saying, Ethan, go play in another city with Ms. Li for a while. Something dangerous might happen in L.A. Lying on the bed, Ethan refused directly. How can that be? I have so many guests here. Whatever. You won't listen even if I tell you. Don't go out these days. Do you think I can go out? Just then, someone walked past the door. Chen Zhao turned around. It was Giselle. Giselle also noticed Chen Zhao. Why are you here? Giselle looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. I'm a doctor, Chen Zhao said. Chapter 760. After treating Ethan, Chen Zhao planned to go home. Just as he was about to drive, Giselle suddenly got in his car. Chen Zhao was shocked. What are you doing? Giselle, I already have a girlfriend. Giselle gave Chen Zhao a document. Chen Zhao flipped through 2 pages. It was filled with names and addresses. He didn't understand what it was. What do you mean? Are you the president of the supernatural organization or not? Can't you see your own organization's information? Oh. Is this our organization's information? You know that I'm usually busy with work. I don't pay attention to unimportant information like this. Go to the first address. You have friends? Giselle rolled her eyes. This is the address of a fallen person. Only then did Chen Zhao understand. These days, the society had been investigating all kinds of people who came to Los Angeles with magical power. Some people had been confirmed, but they'd been crossed out. There were also some people whose identities weren't confirmed. They were all on this document. Giselle, on the other hand, recognized the information on one of the documents. Okay. Chen Zhao drove the car to the address on the document. He also wanted to see if he could find a few more fallen ones. Before the battle, he'd kill a few first. It was an abandoned factory. Chen Zhao looked at the closed door. I'll call someone. No need. I'll go in myself. It's too dangerous inside. You don't even know what's going on inside. Also, the fallen are very strong. Giselle glanced at Chen Zhao, her eyes filled with disdain. I had Padilla make some special weapons for me, she said coolly. I'm not afraid of them now. Okay. Chen Zhao stopped trying to stop Giselle. Giselle realized that Chen Zhao had gotten out of the car with her. You're going in too? I won't. Chen Zhao shook his head. He realized that there was a sewer beside the abandoned factory. A pair of eyes was staring at him from under the cover of the sewer, so Chen Zhao decided to check it out. Giselle thought to herself, sure enough, this guy is a coward. She really didn't understand how he became the president of the supernatural organization. To Giselle, only Gaia could be the president. Forget it, now is not the time to be entangled in this matter. Giselle cautiously approached the iron gate of the factory, and secretly pushed it open. There was a witch sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating. The witch did not turn her head. She seemed to have noticed Giselle. Giselle, you shouldn't be here. You already knew I was coming? Have you forgotten my main profession of magic? I'm a prophet. The witch turned her head. She was a black witch, a contemporary of Giselle's mother. I can see the strong aura of death on your body. You will die here, the black witch said. Giselle took out more than 10 balls. The black witch was a little surprised. What are these things? Giselle threw the balls out, and the balls suddenly spun in midair, extending their wings and beginning to circle around. The black witch raised her hand and shot a flame at the black gas. The spinning balls immediately dispersed, causing the black witch's attack to miss. These flying balls were made by Padaloo. They could spin and fly, and their wings were extremely sharp. Shwa, a flying ball flew past the black witch's arm. The black witch was enraged. Suddenly, a flying ball landed at the black witch's feet. Just as the black witch was about to kick the ball away, the ball suddenly sprayed out a cold air, instantly freezing the black witch's legs. These spinning balls were all sealed with some special substances. For example, strong acids, kerosene, or liquid nitrogen. Giselle was able to freely control these flying balls. Her magic allowed her to control these things as she pleased. The black witch was in extreme pain. She twisted her body. The flesh of her lower body began to crack, but she didn't seem to feel the pain. She twisted her body crazily. Finally, the black witch's upper body and the frozen lower body were completely separated. Just like that, the black witch only had half of her body left, crawling on the ground with difficulty. Giselle had never seen such a crazy enemy before. Even though she knew that the black witch had become a fallen. But this was also the first time she saw such a crazy fallen. Just then, octopus tentacles suddenly stretched out from the black witch's stomach. Giselle was shocked. She looked at the black witch again. She had now become an octopus person. Her upper body was human, and her lower body had been replaced by an octopus. I'm going to kill you! The black witch roared angrily. Then you should die first. Giselle no longer showed mercy. A flying ball flew over the Black Witch's head, and a large amount of strong acid sprayed from it. Ah! The Black Witch wailed in pain. Seeing that Giselle was more difficult to deal with than she had imagined, the Black Witch turned around and fled. Although she had been suppressed by Giselle, her escape speed wasn't slow at all. Moreover, the octopus' lower body allowed her to walk in the complex factory environment as if it were flat ground. Giselle was also chasing after the Black Witch. But in this complex environment, her flying ball was also limited, and she couldn't fly as freely as in the open space in front of her. Just then, the Black Witch came to the entrance of a sewer, opened the manhole cover, and threw it directly at Giselle. Giselle hurriedly dodged, and the Black Witch plunged into the sewer. Giselle also followed her into the sewer. But in the sewer, Giselle didn't run far before she saw blood on the ground. There's someone else here? Giselle ran a few more steps and found a broken arm. Giselle continued forward and saw 2 corpses. She recognized one of the corpses. It was the witch from Denver. But this person had become a fallen more than 10 days ago. The 2 corpses were strung in a straight line by a steel bar and embedded in the wall. Giselle continued forward and saw another corpse. It was also the corpse of a witch. The lower body of this corpse was also an octopus, just like the Black Witch from before. But this corpse's head was gone. The deeper she went, the more nauseous Giselle felt. The more bloody the path became. It was as if a massacre had happened here. Giselle found a relatively large space in the sewer, which had become a slaughterhouse. Corpses that she recognized and did not recognize were all discarded here. Chapter 761. Giselle didn't find a single living person. There were only corpses. She was sure that everything here belonged to the fallen. But she didn't understand who would come here. The dozen or so fallen were completely wiped out. Giselle shuddered. She turned and ran out. When she reached the corner, she saw a head. Looking closely, she realized that it was the head of the Black Witch she'd chased earlier. Giselle ran out of the sewers. She saw Chen Zhao from afar. "President, darling, I really went to Ethan's house to treat him. Then I went to the supermarket and went home. I'm going home now." "President," Chen Zhao glanced at Giselle. "I'm in a hurry, so I can't take you back to the hotel. Take a taxi." Here's $50. Take it as travel expenses. Bye." With that, Chen Zhao drove the car away. Fuck Shoal. Giselle looked back at the dilapidated factory behind her and shivered. She didn't want to stay here anymore. Giselle finally managed to hail a taxi and dawdled for an hour before returning to the headquarters. Giselle found the tool room. Jalag and Padalu were inside. Jalag was a weapon designer, while Padalu was good at manufacturing. "Padalu, I need to make a few more spinning balls." "Huh? Did you fight with someone just now?" "Yes, that Shoal president. I was fighting and he didn't do anything. He was talking to his girlfriend the whole time. In the end, he even left me here." Hearing the topic about Chen Zhao, Jalag and Padalu immediately stopped talking. "I don't understand why someone like him is our president. Are you that scared of him? The last person who disobeyed the president's orders and disobeyed him was killed right in front of us." In Giselle's mind, Chen Zhao was not only useless, but also a tyrant. "Don't you know how to resist? I have high hopes for you. You can try resisting the president. Let's see if he won't beat you up." Jalag rolled his eyes. "I'll be beaten up?" Giselle sneered. "I'm not trash like you," she thought. The storm in Los Angeles was getting stronger. At the same time, the tide outside Los Angeles did not rise. Instead, it receded on a large scale. This also cast a shadow over the citizens of Los Angeles. There was only one possibility for such an unusual retreat. The tsunami had arrived. The city of Los Angeles issued a red alert. Almost all traffic in Los Angeles came to a standstill. Airports, railways, and ships had all stopped operating. Factories stopped working and schools were suspended. Everyone knew that a disaster was coming. After nightfall, the wind became stronger and the rain became heavier. A large area of water had already appeared on the streets. Moreover, the water was growing very quickly. Some streets were already completely covered by the water. Feilai, it seems like it's raining heavily today. Should we sleep early? Don't you think it's very romantic in this weather? Qin Zhao looked at Feilai helplessly. Whatever makes you happy. The water level of Mirror Lake had risen and filled the living room. King Kong curled up on the second floor, shivering. He was most afraid of water, and this kind of storm made him even more frightened. Qin Zhao silently took out a lucky coin and wiped a drop of blood on it. May God bless you with great fortune. In the rainy night, Gaia carried her sword and left her apartment. Just as she was about to get into the car, she saw a black shadow sitting in her car. Gaia suddenly lifted the sword. Just then, Giselle's head poked out of the window. Gaia, it's me. Why are you here? Ms. Gaia, you're going to fight the source of the fallen, right? I'm coming too. Get out. Why? Why? Gaia glanced at Giselle. This isn't something you should be involved in. Gaia, do you know what happened to me? West investigated. Gaia said. Currently, your senior sisters and you've all met with mishaps. The supernatural organization wouldn't be so careless. Just anyone could apply to join. Plus, the situation was so tense right now. Who knew if the fallen had ulterior motives? Therefore, Giselle's identity and background had already been investigated thoroughly. I must join. You'll only be a hindrance, Gaia said. The president and I will handle this. President? He'll only make us hide. He's not reliable at all. I don't know what misunderstandings you have about Qin, but he's done much more for the organization than you know, Gaia said. Also, the main battlefield is in front of the president's house. I don't care where the main battlefield is. I'm going. Forget it, Gaia said. If there's a battle later, no one will protect you. You can only rely on yourself. I'm the same. Gaia brought Giselle to Mountain Town. However, when they arrived, the two realized that the town had already become a sea of water. Their car had also broken down in the puddles. Let's get out and walk. It's not far anyway. Gaia, where are we going now? To the president's house. Why? Where? I told you, it'll be the main battlefield. Why? Because the president has a grudge against the source of the fallen. Grudge? What kind of grudge? The president gave the source of the fallen a nickname. The source of the fallen is furious. What nickname can make the source of the fallen go to the president directly? A monster with tentacles. Pfft! Giselle almost choked on her laughter. No wonder the source of the fallen hates the president so much. The water was very deep right now. The water had already reached their waists, which made it even more difficult for them to move in the water. Why does the president live in such a remote place? Why? Don't talk so much. The more you talk, the more energy you use. Save your energy for battle. Suddenly, a huge black shadow flashed past in front of them. It was a huge ship, but it wasn't floating on the water. Instead, it floated in the air. It was a stormy night, so they could only vaguely see the outline of the ship. What's that? Gaia and Giselle both gasped. Gaia immediately sped up and charged toward Qin Zhao's house. At the moment, Qin Zhao was sitting above the internal alchemy on the lake. He didn't want to fight in his house. After all, he'd spent a lot of money to build it. If a battle broke out inside the house, it would definitely be destroyed. Chapter 762. Qin Zhao looked up at the black shadow above his head. Boat? The fallen source's entrance seemed to have become a lot more ostentatious. If the ship were to crash down, it would probably make him dizzy. Fortunately, the ship floating in the sky had no such thoughts. At this time, fallen one after another descended from the sky. Dozens of degenerates stood on the surface of Mirror Lake. Their feet touched the surface of the lake but did not sink. These degenerates didn't say anything and directly attacked. The mana of each of the fallen began to interweave, forming a magic array. Chen Zhao looked at the degenerates. You should call your asterisk out. It doesn't matter how many cannon fodder like you come. Just then, a wave came from the water in the distance. The source of the fallen had entered Mirror Lake from the river mouth. Human, we meet again. Hi, how have you been? Chen Zhao looked at the source of the fallen. Can we be more direct? Don't beat around the bush. Do you think these witches are useless to you? Are they useful? I can't tell. Chen Zhao shook his head. These 36 witches are all demon-suppressing witches that I have carefully selected. All of them possess powerful suppressing magic, and they have now formed a sealing magic array. Even I can't break free. You! Do you think you're stronger than me? Chen Zhao wanted to take a step, but he realized that he couldn't move at all. He really couldn't move? Chen Zhao tried to move again, but he still couldn't. What do you think? Isn't that a pleasant surprise? The fallen provenance's voice was filled with joy. Chen Zhao looked at the source of the fallen. Have you forgotten that this is my main battlefield? At this moment, many ghostly lights suddenly appeared on both sides of Mirror Lake. The fully armed skeleton soldiers appeared and started shooting at the witches on the lake. One by one, the witches were killed. Chen Zhao also felt that the suppression seemed to have weakened, but he still couldn't move. Activate Zeus' wrath immediately! The fallen source was not naive enough to think that this magic array could take care of Chen Zhao. The spaceship in the sky suddenly flashed with electricity. Gaia and Giselle saw the lightning above Mirror Lake. Oh no, they've already started fighting. Gaia and Giselle found a piece of wood and used it as a boat, paddling with all their might. Finally, they arrived at Mirror Lake. They saw Chen Zhao trapped in the center of the lake by the witches and a rain of bullets. Chun! I'll help you! Gaia yelled and leaped into the air from the wooden plank. Gaia's great sword slashed down, and a fallen instantly received a lunchbox. Gaia! Don't come any closer. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder. Countless bolts of lightning shot towards the spaceship in midair, causing the spaceship to emit a bright light. Then, the lightning from the ship shot at Chen Zhao. Bang! Oh no! A huge shockwave spread out in all directions with Chen Zhao at the center. Gaia was sent flying by the impact. Chen Zhao was hit by a huge electric current. He couldn't stop trembling. Right now, Chen Zhao was in extreme pain, but he also had another feeling. That feeling was very much like in wuxia novels, where the Ren and Du meridians were opened. However, after the huge shock, Chen Zhao also lost consciousness. He fell onto the water and didn't move. Giselle didn't expect that the president she hated and despised would die like this. But it was reasonable. After all, he was facing the terrifying provenance of the fallen. No! Fei Lai rushed out of the house and wanted to swim to Chen Zhao. Gaia had already woken up. He also roared. No! A bunch of trash! The provenance of the fallen glanced at the remaining people. More fallen landed from the spaceship in the sky. Gaia swung his great sword and split a fallen in half. Gaia's blade burned with scorching dragon breath as he waved it around wildly. Even the pouring rain couldn't extinguish the flames on the blade. Fei Lai had already swam to Chen Zhao's side and dragged him to the top of the internal alchemy. Chen, how can you do this? How can you leave me? Fei Lai cried. Chen, how can you do this? Suddenly, Fei Lai remembered and immediately pulled a gold coin from her neck. Right, scapegoat coin, scapegoat coin. Chen, don't die, don't die. However, Chen Zhao still didn't move. He lay quietly in Fei Lai's arms. Gaia fought her way to the shore. When she saw Fei Lai in the middle of the lake, she immediately jumped back in. But just then, a tentacle wrapped around her and pulled her into the air. Obey me. Gaia had dragon blood. How could she be controlled by the provenance of the fallen? Flames suddenly erupted from Gaia's body. The tentacle was immediately released by the burning flames. At this moment, Gaia released her tentacles, and with a push of her feet, she rose a few meters higher. Gaia's body fell like a meteor falling from the sky, crashing toward the provenance of the fallen. When Giselle saw Gaia, her eyes were filled with anticipation and admiration. As expected, she could only hope for Gaia in the end. But the provenance of the fallen didn't give Gaia a chance to touch the body at all. A huge tentacle suddenly swept toward the fallen Gaia. Bang! Gaia was sent flying and smashed onto the shore. Gaia stood up with difficulty and vomited a mouthful of blood. It was too difficult. Fighting a monster like this was too difficult. Even Qinzhao couldn't win, let alone herself. Giselle's face was filled with shock. Her original hope instantly vanished into thin air. How could this be? Why was there such a huge difference? Could even Gaia not win against the provenance of the fallen? More degenerates landed from the spacecraft in the air. They all charged toward Fei Lai and Qinzhao. Gaia wanted to go forward to help, but if she moved, she would fall into the water. Her leg bones and ribs were all broken. Gaia panicked even more. Right now, she could only use her sword to support her body. Roar! A dragon's roar reverberated in all directions. Suddenly, a red light appeared in the darkness. From the direction of the mansion, something covered in flames rose into the air. Disbelief filled Gaia's eyes. She could feel the blood in her body starting to boil. She'd had the same feeling back on Zytral Island. It was the same feeling as when the three-headed dragon had appeared. But this time, the feeling was even more intense. The flames shot up from the bottom. A pillar of fire shot into the sky. Chapter 763. Abitos had already transformed into a 7-meter-long fire dragon. He roared at the sky. Abitos hadn't grown much, but his body had become much larger. Fire dragon? Gaia and Giselle were both shocked. Chen Zhao had a fire dragon? Immediately, 9 snake heads popped out of the water. Each of the 9 snake heads bit down on the 9 fallen ones. The 9 snakes circled around Fei Lai, protecting her. Hydra? Little 9 had a corrosive bomb on the left, and a poisonous gas on the right. Anyone who wanted to approach Fei Lai was killed by Little 9. Abitos kept flying above Mirror Lake, circling around Fei Lai. He spat out dragon breath and surrounded Fei Lai. Suddenly, Gaia realized that something was moving under her feet. She took 2 steps back in fright. Vines started rising from the water. More and more vines appeared, forming a wall of vines. It wasn't just around her. The entire Mirror Lake was surrounded. Then, Gaia saw a big tree appear in front of her without her noticing. Eugenus had joined the battle too. Gaia recognized the tree. It was the one Chen Zhao had planted in the backyard. The entire Mirror Lake was now surrounded by a wall of vines. Next, Cerberus joined the battle too. The Cerberus's body was wreathed in hellfire as it suddenly burst out of the water and bit down on one of the fallen. The 3 heads shook, and the fallen one split into 3. Cerberus! Gaia gasped. Fei Lai didn't care about her surroundings at all. She just hugged Chen Zhao and cried. Suddenly, Fei Lai felt Chen Zhao move. Shocked, Fei Lai yelled in excitement. Chun? 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 You're not dead? You're not dead, right? Chen Zhao slowly opened his eyes. Grabbing Fei Lai's neck, he kissed her. How come you're here? You asterisk shoal, why don't you die? Fei Lai slapped Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao touched his cheek. Ignoring the gunfire around him, he pulled Fei Lai and started kissing her. Fei Lai struggled to open Chen Zhao's eyes. Asshole, can't you see the situation? Chen Zhao didn't care too much. He hugged Fei Lai and kissed her deeply. Are you done? Fei Lai panted. Chen Zhao finally let go of Fei Lai and roared in the direction of the mansion. King Kong, come out! If you don't come out now, you'll never come out again! Seeing Chen Zhao stand up miraculously, Gaia's eyes were filled with surprise. Jin Gang came out of the villa. Although the water did not reach his calf, he was very scared. Abitos! Hearing Chen Zhao's cry, Abitos immediately landed beside him and started licking Qin Zhao's face. Send Fei Lai to the shore. You and King Kong will protect her. Qin Zhao placed Fei Lai on Abito's back. Abitos successfully sent Fei Lai to the shore. Giselle stared at him in disbelief. Just how many legendary creatures did this guy raise? Fire Dragon, Hydra, Cerberus. There was also the incredible Treant. These three could be said to be the most representative legendary creatures of the West. Now, she had seen all of them in one night. Asterisk, 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 the second round is starting. Qin Zhao looked at the fallen. Don't call me asterisk, 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 asterisk. The fallen hated this nickname to the bone. Right now, Qin Zhao felt like he had endless power in his body. Kill him! The fallen ordered all the fallen. You want to compete in numbers? You make it sound like I'm scared. The gargoyles also made their move. The gargoyles that were flying in the sky kept teasing the fallen. The two sides fought in the sky above Mirror Lake. The gargoyles might not be strong, but their greatest characteristic was that they were almost impossible to kill. Just then, a figure as large as the fallen jumped out of the water. The gigantic figure opened its bloody mouth and swallowed a dozen or so degenerates in one gulp. Giselle was dumbfounded. What was that? What was that thing just now? Was that Qin Zhao's true power? Giselle remembered that West had once said that Qin Zhao was a druid. So, Qin Zhao's true power was to control these legendary creatures. Qin Zhao put away the internal core under his feet. At the same time, he summoned two clones. They hid in the water and put on a set of clothes. The three Qin Zhaos jumped in the water and charged toward the fallen. The tentacles hidden in the water moved immediately. Countless tentacles attacked Qin Zhao and the two clones. His original body and clone were bound by the tentacles at the same time, but his strength was much higher than before. The tentacles couldn't restrain them at all. Instead, they grabbed the tentacles and it became a tug-of-war in the water. The two clones grabbed the tentacles. The fallen felt something was wrong. It wanted to pull back but realized that it couldn't move. Qin Zhao's real body went straight toward the fallen. One of the fallen's tentacles slapped Qin Zhao's real body from the water. Qin Zhao was slapped into the air. But the next moment, Qin Zhao took out the internal core. He fell vertically from above. Boom! Under the acceleration of gravity, the internal core smashed heavily into the fallen's head. Qin Zhao lifted the internal core again. Just like that, he lifted the dozens of tons of internal core. You want to take revenge on me? Bang! Qin Zhao smashed it down, lifted it up, and smashed it down again. Giselle and Gaia were both dumbfounded by what they saw. The huge stone ball was used as a weapon by Qin Zhao just like that. He seemed to want to smash the fallen into meat paste. But after smashing it a few times, Qin Zhao felt that the internal core really wasn't useful. Because the inner core was simply too big, there was no grip point. He could only lift it. It was hard to use. Qin Zhao had an idea. The dark serum wrapped around the internal core. After it was wrapped, the black egg turned black. This way, it was much easier for Qin Zhao to control it. Qin Zhao connected one hand to the dark serum, and then pulled the internal core. He used the internal core as a hammer ball. Come on, come on! Didn't you say you wanted to take revenge on me? Come on! The source of the fallen had been completely smashed into a retard. Qin Zhao's attack was too brutal. I told you to do a striptease, but you're not willing, right? Bang! You felt good just now, didn't you? Bang! Do you know how much my family lost because of this? Bang! You bullied my woman while I was unconscious, right? Bang! I surrender my ass. I don't want to surrender. I want to make takoyaki. Chapter 764. The source of the fallen was really stubborn. Qin Zhao smashed it a dozen times, but it still wasn't dead. But even so, it didn't mean that the source of the fallen was unharmed. It wasn't like it was made of steel. It couldn't be smashed into the ground by a stone ball that weighed dozens of tons. Anyone would be beaten senseless. Giselle was dumbfounded. Since when was the once arrogant source of the fallen so weak? No, it wasn't that it was weak. That man was too terrifying. Qin Zhao's 2 clones also joined in the beatings. The 3 punched and kicked. They wouldn't stop until the source of the fallen was smashed into pieces. Come on, let's do a striptease. Come on. If possible, the source of the fallen really wanted to do a striptease for Qin Zhao. But Qin Zhao realized that he really couldn't beat it like this. The source of the fallen was too tough. After all, it was a freak that recovered quickly. Human, you can't kill me. Give up, the source of the fallen said. It knew that it couldn't beat Qin Zhao now, so it gave up resisting. But its recovery speed was shocking. A dead pig wasn't afraid of boiling water. Qin Zhao called Gaia to his side. Gaia, cut off his body parts. Do what? Gaia asked, confused. This thing recovers too fast. No matter how hard I hit it, it can still recover quickly. Then what do we do? My pet likes to eat him, Qin Zhao said. Feed my pet first. Qin Zhao's pets of various sizes all came. To them, the source of the fallen was just a giant roast lamb. No one was polite. They went up and tore at the source of the fallen in a few bites. Meanwhile, Gaia and Qin Zhao started cutting off the flesh of the source of the fallen and throwing it into the water for Amon to eat. They completely treated themselves as butchers. Giselle moved closer and looked at Qin Zhao and Gaia, who were covered in blood. Even though they weren't enemies, the water scared Giselle quite a bit. Giselle looked into the source of the fallen's eyes. Suddenly, a thought drilled into her mind. Qin Zhao seemed to feel it. He turned to Giselle. If you're controlled now, I'll cut you up and feed you to the dogs. Giselle shivered in fear and sobered up. Sometimes, fear is the best way to stay awake. Chen, we can't. This guy recovers too quickly. We can't kill him at all. Soon, the pets were full. Only Amon could continue eating, but the source of the fall had recovered. Call Eris. She has a magic book with a way to seal it. The rain did not stop, and the water was almost over the first layer. Alice finally arrived. Of course, she was accompanied by the other members of the association. However, they came by speedboat. At this time, the whole of Los Angeles had become a lake, and cars could not move at all. Giselle, why are you here? Where's the president? Giselle didn't dare to get close to the source of corruption. She pointed at Qin Zhao on the other side of Mirror Lake. Qin Zhao was still beating up the source of the fallen. Gaia was already exhausted and was brought back to the villa to rest. Fuck, what a fuck! Could that be the source of the fall? That's him. Alice nodded. It can't be that you want us to join the battle, right? We can't handle it, West said. The president already defeated him, but he can't kill him, so he called Alice over and told her to seal the source of the fall. I'll go over there. Don't go over. I was almost controlled by the source of the fall. Giselle hurriedly pulled Alice back. Apart from the president and Gaia, it'll be hard for everyone else to avoid it. But if Alice doesn't go over, how can we seal the source of the fall? Let the president's pets deliver the message, Giselle said. She saw that Qin Zhao's pets were delivering messages for Qin Zhao and Fei Lai. Fei Lai only had to say a few words to a pet, and the pet would deliver the message to Qin Zhao. These pets would also not be controlled by the source of the fall. Qin Zhao was exhausted too. After all, he'd fought for an entire night. The source of the fall was covered in wounds, but it would jump around again after a short rest. He had no choice but to continue. Qin Zhao used a few sharpened trees to nail the source of the fall to the ground. Eugenus also used vines to tie the source of the fall into a dumpling. But he couldn't continue like this. Qin Zhao would eventually get tired too. After being struck by lightning, Qin Zhao's stamina had greatly increased again. But there was still a limit. Just then, a Beatos flew over. Ada, that human girl over there said that she doesn't have enough power to seal the source of the fall. So there's no other way? Qin Zhao asked. If Alice couldn't do it, he could only release the source of the fall. But if he released the source of the fall this time, he really wouldn't have a chance to kill it again. Plus, he'd made such a huge enemy this time that the source of the fall might stab him in the back. She said that there's no way to seal it completely. What does that mean? I don't know. Go back and ask before coming back. A while later, Abitos returned. Ada, that human girl, said that there's a loophole in her seal. Just then, the source of the fall stopped. You've already beaten and scolded me. Why do you still want to seal me? The source of the fall exploded. It waved its tentacles again. Chen Zhao saw that the situation was bad. They were going to fight again. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of an idea. The source of the fall was an alien god. So there should be a core to make a foundation treasure in his body, right? If he took the core, who knew if the source of the fall could still be so arrogant? In for a penny, in for a pound. Qin Zhao took out the bronze sword, covered it with the dark serum, and stabbed it into the source of the fall. Ah! The dark serum seeped into the source of the fall. It felt extreme pain again. It wasn't a stranger to this pain. Last time, just a little bit of the dark serum had tortured it for 2 months. This time, it wasn't just a little bit. The source of the fall waved its tentacles wildly again. The people in the distance were shocked. Only Qin Zhao could fight against such a monster. If it were them, a single tentacle would probably be enough to send them flying. Large amounts of dark serum seeped into the source of the fall and started wreaking havoc inside. Qin Zhao hacked at the tentacles outside. However, the source of the fall was even harder to deal with when it went crazy. Qin Zhao grabbed the source of the fall and hammered it left and right. Chapter 765. No! No! The fallen source struggled with all its might. If he didn't fight for his life now, he would really die. He could feel Qin Zhao's dark serum seeping into the depths of his body, trying to take over the core. But the fallen source's struggle didn't stop Qin Zhao's goal. The moment the dark prime fluid came into contact with the core, it suddenly expanded. With a puff, the fallen source's orifices, mouth, nose, and eyes spewed out large amounts of dark serum. The fallen source lost all signs of life and stopped moving. Qin Zhao sat on the ground, exhausted. Everything was finally over. The sky was starting to brighten. Everyone looked in the direction of the light. That wasn't moving anymore. Qin Zhao also sat on the ground. Everyone was still in a state of shock. It was finally over. Giselle stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. She didn't expect that the scariest person in the association wasn't Gaia, but Qin Zhao. After a while, Qin Zhao dragged his tired body back to the mansion. Everyone looked at Qin Zhao. President, you're really too amazing. You're the one in my heart, shut up. I'm really tired now. Get out of here, all of you. I'm going to rest. Qin Zhao had a bad temper. Everyone knew that Qin Zhao always kept his word. Now that Qin Zhao had spoken, they all ran away. Qin Zhao only left Gaia behind to treat her injuries and arrange a guest room for her to rest. Qin Zhao pulled Fei Lai, who hadn't slept all night, into the bedroom. Qin, I was scared to death last night. I thought. As Fei Lai spoke, tears welled up in her eyes again. I'm sorry for making you worry. Qin Zhao didn't want Fei Lai to know about the danger he'd faced in the past because he didn't want her to be sad. Qin Zhao was very tired. Fei Lai was also very tired. In his haze, Qin Zhao suddenly saw an image. A memory that shouldn't belong to him appeared in his mind. Qin Zhao was shocked. Where did this memory come from? Qin Zhao was very conscious now. Run! This memory gave Qin Zhao the feeling that he was running for his life. He'd escaped from the fog. He was surrounded by the vast ocean. Qin Zhao immediately realized that the extra memories he had were the memories of the fallen. It was clearly from before the fallen source was sealed. But he seemed to have escaped from somewhere. Was there something chasing after him? However, with the fallen source's strength, what could possibly kill him? One had to know that the fallen source's strength was not something that a cat or dog could compare to. For example, the three-headed dragon could probably be easily taken down by the fallen origin. But Qin Zhao could feel the fear of the fallen. He was still surrounded by the boundless ocean, and the source of the fallen had been drifting on the ocean for who knew how long. All of a sudden, a ship crashed into the... Then Qin Zhao opened his eyes, holding his head. At that moment, he really felt as if he was the source of the fall. What the hell? Could it be that I've been controlled by the source of depravity? At this moment, the sun was shining brightly outside the window. The black wind was long gone, and the heavy rain was no longer pouring down. When Qin Zhao went downstairs, he saw Feilai and Gaia chatting in the yard. The flood had subsided and the underlings were cleaning up inside and outside. Hearing his footsteps, Feilai called out in surprise. "Qin, you're awake! How many days did I sleep? It's 1 day longer than the last time, 75 hours. It seemed like he was really tired this time. Gaia, how's your injury? I healed a long time ago." Gaia's body was also extraordinary. "Qin, are you sure our kids won't get a stomachache after eating that monster?" Feilai asked. In the past 2 days, she'd realized that the pets at home ate the corpses of the fallen source every meal. No matter what she prepared for them, it was useless. They clearly preferred the corpses of the fallen source. "It's fine," Qin Zhao said. "They just like it. Unfortunately, I won't have a chance to eat it in the future." Mirror Lake had calmed down, but some things brought by the storm and flood couldn't be cleaned up so quickly. For example, the nearby swimming pool was now filled with mud from the waterfall. Of course, with the hard-working underlings, Qin Zhao and Feilai didn't have to do anything themselves. Seeing that Qin Zhao was better, Gaia left after lunch. As soon as Gaia left, Qin Zhao started kissing Feilai. LA had a storm and a tsunami this time, but there weren't many deaths. A couple had died, and they'd gone to the beach on a stormy night. Just as Qin Zhao and Feilai were getting intimate, West called. "President, I heard from Gaia that you're awake," West said. "I was just sleeping," Qin Zhao said in annoyance. "What do you mean I'm awake? Do you know how to talk? President, we've received all the funding for this year. Do you want to come and host it? How much?" Qin Zhao's eyes brightened. $5 million. How much do I need to renovate my office? After kissing Feilai goodbye, Qin Zhao hurried to the headquarters. As soon as he left, his phone rang again, but he'd left his phone at home. Feilai picked it up. "Hello? Hello, are you Mr. Zhao? Is this Mr. Chen?" "No, I'm his girlfriend. I left his phone at home. How can I help you?" When he arrived at the headquarters, Qin Zhao subconsciously touched his body. He'd forgotten his phone. Whatever. He wouldn't lose his phone at home anyway. Plus, there wasn't anything shameful in his phone. Entering the conference room, everyone looked at Qin Zhao. The people who'd been chatting happily immediately shut up. Now, as long as Qin Zhao appeared in the conference room, no one dared to disturb the order in the room anymore. "President, these are the results of the past 6 months. You can read them yourself." Qin Zhao rolled his eyes at West. He'd only joined the association for less than 3 months. How could he read them? Why did the United States also put on such formalism? Enjoy them yourselves. Let's talk about how to use the funding first. "President, our weapons research department needs more funding," Jalag said immediately. Jalag had always been the one who asked for money the most in the association. He was also the one who could get it the most. After all, he was in charge of researching everyone's weapons. Even Qin Zhao had to give him some face. "As long as it doesn't exceed $200,000, Qin Zhao said. "President, it's not enough. It'll be gone if we experiment on something." "Nonsense. I don't need you to research atomic bombs. $200,000 is enough. President, how about you research a few powerful weapons? Next time we encounter monsters, you guys can fight them. I'll give you as much funding as you want." Jalag didn't say anything. "Forget it. Chapter 766. Anyway, anyone could ask for funds as long as it didn't exceed $200,000. Chen Zhao would get anxious if it exceeded this limit. His office hadn't even been renovated yet. You want some funds, I want some funds. 5 million seemed like a lot, but it couldn't be split among the wolves and tigers. The supernatural organization didn't have many members, but there were many places where money was needed. For example, the construction of the training ground would cost hundreds of thousands. Chen Zhao and West had done an evaluation. They wanted to build a training ground for the members of the organization. The initial estimate was $800,000. They didn't have money before. Now that they had money, Chen Zhao wanted to build the training ground first. Of course, if they requested for weapons or equipment, Chen Zhao could approve it. When Chen Zhao returned home, he realized that Fei Lai had been holding his phone and spacing out on the sofa. Chen Zhao went up to hug her. Fei Lai, what are you thinking about? Fei Lai sat there in silence, not saying a word. Chen Zhao was confused. Fei Lai, what's wrong? After 5 minutes of silence, Fei Lai finally spoke. Chen, I just received a call from Santa Maria Hospital. Fei Lai said. San Francisco? Santa Maria Hospital? Chen Zhao was confused. Call them yourself. It's someone called Dr. John. Chen Zhao hesitated. San Francisco? Zherlin was the only person he knew. Did something happen to Zherlin? If it was Zherlin, it was no wonder that Fei Lai would be so jealous. Hello, I'm Zhao. Chen, are you Dr. John? Hello, I'm Dr. John. Are you Ms. Zherlin's ex-boyfriend? Chen Zhao hesitated and answered. Yes. Ms. Zherlin gave birth to a baby girl in our hospital on August 15th. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. His expression froze and he turned to look at Fei Lai in shock. Chen Zhao started calculating the time. He'd come to America on National Day last year. Then, he'd slept with Zherlin around October. He and Zherlin hadn't been in a relationship back then. In fact, he and Zherlin hadn't been in a relationship at all. So, they'd been more careful in that aspect. Zherlin had taken birth control pills. How did she have a child? Alright, although it sounded a little unpleasant to think about. But Chen Zhao couldn't help but wonder if the child was his. May I ask where Zherlin is? Miss Zherlin is dead. Dead? Chen Zhao was dumbfounded again. Dead? How did he die? She wouldn't die of dystocia in this era, right? Miss Zherlin was shot when she was giving birth. Although we tried to resuscitate her, due to her heavy injuries, we only managed to save the baby. Dr. John said. Because Miss Zherlin only registered that you're the father of the child, and she also left your contact information, the hospital can only call you. Of course, you're not legally obligated to adopt this child. If you refuse to adopt this child, we'll send the child to an orphanage. Wait a moment. I'll go to San Francisco tomorrow. Can we talk face to face then? All right. After hanging up, Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai. Fei Lai, I'm sorry. Fei Lai suddenly pounced on him. Chen, let's have a baby too. I want to have children with you too, Fei Lai said. He didn't know what a woman's mind was like. But now he couldn't even say that he didn't want to have a child so early. Actually, Chen Zhao hadn't planned on having a child so early. He wanted to be carefree for a few more years. But now, another woman had given birth to a child for him. What could he say? I'll go to San Francisco tomorrow, Chen Zhao said. Okay, bring her back, Fei Lai said. Early in the morning, Chen Zhao went straight to the airport. Chen Zhao's emotions were very complicated. Joy. Nervousness? Doubt? A woman sitting beside Chen Zhao saw that Chen Zhao was sweating profusely and in a daze. Sir, are you not feeling well? Huh. I'm fine. Chen Zhao came back to his senses. I'm fine. The woman looked at Chen Zhao's nervous expression. Is he a terrorist? Okay, the woman was thinking too much. The plane landed safely. Chen Zhao was nervous and hesitant, but he didn't do anything extreme on the plane. Sir, the exit is over there. The woman followed Qin Zhao and realized that he didn't know the way. Oh, thank you. The woman followed Qin Zhao. Seeing that Qin Zhao was still in a daze, she almost walked onto the road and got hit by a car. A moment later, the woman parked her car at the airport and saw that Qin Zhao was still waiting by the roadside. Sir, where are you going? Do you need a ride? Is it convenient? As long as you don't need me to drive you to the suburbs. St. Mary Hospital. Okay, come up. The woman looked at the nervous Qin Zhao. Are you sick? No, I just suddenly found out that I have a daughter. Qin Zhao answered. Your wife? No, ex-girlfriend. Okay. At the entrance of the hospital, Qin Zhao looked back at the woman in the car. Thank you. May I know your name? Maria. I'm Qin. Oh, I also know someone called Maria, but you're not like her at all. Goodbye. Qin Zhao entered the hospital and found Dr. John. Hello, Dr. John. Can I see my daughter? You need to do a blood type comparison first. If you're not the father, we can't give the child to you. America's protection of children had reached a very strict level. Anything that was related to children would become complicated. Of course, the blood type comparison came out very quickly. Dr. John held a blood test report. Mr. Qin, after matching the blood types and a paternity test, we've confirmed that you're the biological father. Qin Zhao was dumbfounded. It really was his own child. He'd actually become a father? Mr. Qin, do you want to adopt the child? Of course, of course. Qin Zhao nodded. Our hospital will help you get a certificate. We'll also help you contact an adoption agency. May I know what your job is? I'm a professor at UCLA. A good job would definitely make the adoption process smoother. Okay. Dr. John nodded. Chapter 767. Look, that's your child. Dr. John pointed at the child in the room. Generally speaking, children were placed next to the pregnant woman. Unless they were in poor health or had no parents to take care of them, they would only be placed here. What number? 13. Is the child healthy? Qin Zhao asked. The child was born 3 weeks early, so he's weak, but he's much more stable now. There's a silver bracelet on his hand. Did Jerlin leave it behind? Dr. John froze. That's strange. We don't give jewelry to children in the room. Even if it's something left by parents, it's not allowed. Can I hug my child? Qin Zhao asked nervously. Yes. Dr. John glanced at Qin Zhao. Some young parents had the same expression as Qin Zhao. Sorry, you're not allowed to touch the child before the adoption process is completed. Okay, how long will it take? If there are no accidents, it can be done in 1 or 2 days. Okay, thank you. Just then, a woman in black professional attire walked over from the other side of the aisle. She walked with the wind and her gaze was as sharp as a dagger. Dr. John, I'm taking my niece away now. I don't want to hear any excuses. I'm her only guardian. Sorry, Ms. Alex, you're not the first guardian now. He is. John pointed at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao froze for a moment and looked at Ms. Alex in confusion. Before Jerlin was admitted, she recorded that the child's father is this Mr. Qin. After a paternity test, this Mr. Qin is the child's father. Alex stared at Qin Zhao aggressively. I don't care if you're Jerlin's father or not. Name your price, as long as you give up custody. Sorry, I don't plan on that. Qin Zhao turned his head, ignoring Alex. Why should someone else take care of his daughter? He didn't know before, but now that he knew, he had no reason to ignore it. Alex stared at Qin Zhao. Kid, you know I'm a lawyer, right? You know I can send you to prison. Kid, you know I'm a lawyer, right? You know I can send you to prison. Qin Zhao played the sentence on his phone. Smiling, he looked at Alex. Sorry, I have the habit of recording when I talk to strangers. Alex's expression darkened. This guy seemed harder to deal with than she had imagined. Mr. Qin, I'm sorry for what I said earlier. Alex's tone and attitude suddenly changed, and she softened. Jerlin and I were sisters, and my heart aches for Jerlin's death. This child is Jerlin's only hope in this world, and I hope to take care of her personally. I can provide her with the best living conditions and education. The best education for a child is to stay by their parents' side. Chen Zhao answered. Now that Jerlin is gone, I have the responsibility to take care of her. But you and Jerlin broke up a long time ago. You should have a new relationship now, right? If you have a child in your life, it should have a huge impact on your original life. Any family that has a child will change, but my girlfriend and I will try our best to adapt to this change. Seeing that she couldn't get through to Qin Zhao, Alex showed her true colors again. Jerlin's child will never be adopted by an outsider. I'm not an outsider. I'm her biological father. Apart from blood, you have no relationship with the child. Blood is already a very important relationship. You can't give the child a good life. I'm a university professor. I can also submit proof of my income and assets. I have the ability to provide the best life for the child, and I can also guarantee that she will receive the best care. Alex realized that Qin Zhao was harder to deal with than she had imagined. Qin Zhao's work gave him enough capital. She had to admit that if the adoption agency made the decision, she wouldn't have much of an advantage. Against Qin Zhao, the biological father, she wouldn't have enough of an advantage as an aunt. Between a lawyer and a university professor, the adoption agency would most likely decide that Qin Zhao was the biological father. The adoption agency would first decide if the child was related by blood. The parents would definitely be the top priority. After Jerlin passed away, the only people who could be related to the child were Qin Zhao, the father, and Alex, the aunt. If the child's biological father was a scoundrel or a gangster, Alex could manipulate things and even send the father to prison, then obtain custody and custody. But now, Qin Zhao's job was to be the best caregiver. Even if Alex was a billionaire, she couldn't compare to a university professor. You too, if you have any disputes, can you discuss it outside the hospital? This is the hospital, and there are 20 children in the isolation rooms. I won't give up. Alex left angrily. Chen Zhao shrugged. Dr. John, I hope that the adoption certificate can be done as soon as possible. It's best if it's done within 24 hours. If possible, I'm willing to donate $1 million to the adoption agency and the hospital. Qin Zhao could tell that Alex wasn't a kind person. He didn't want to drag things out. It was best to cut the Gordian knot and bring the child to him as soon as possible. Dr. John's eyes brightened. Okay, I'll go and supervise. Then I'll have to trouble you. Qin Zhao kept looking at the child through the glass window. At the moment, the child was sleeping peacefully. Her soft cheeks were a bit rosy. Qin Zhao's heart had never felt so peaceful before. It was as if just looking at her like this was more comfortable than anything else. Mr. Chen, I'll be leaving now. Okay, goodbye. Just as Dr. John was about to leave, a woman in a hospital gown rushed over and grabbed him. Dr. John, where's my child? Where's my child? Tell me, where did my child go? Tell me. Mrs. Rouse, I don't know either. The police are investigating now. Please wait patiently. You lost my child. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. The woman continued to wail and cry. Qin Zhao frowned. Would a child go missing in this hospital? Qin Zhao couldn't help but worry. He couldn't bring the child with him now. He was even more worried. Chapter 768. A group of police officers came to St. Mary's Hospital. It wasn't their first time here. In 2 months, there had been 3 cases of missing babies. This also caused chaos in St. Mary's Hospital. The 3 girls were stolen from the isolation rooms, right? Yes. Is there surveillance? Yes. Dr. John was an obstetrician. Although he wasn't a nurse, he had to cooperate with the police. A few police officers looked at the screen. Who's the Asian sitting outside the isolation room? He's from Los Angeles. He's the father of one of the children in the isolation room. Oh, the mother is Miss Jerlin, who was sent to the hospital half a month ago. She died from severe injuries. Oh, he's the father? The police officers were surprised. Let's not talk about this. Let's adjust the footage to the time before the babies disappeared. In the screen, a man in a cloak carried a child out of the isolation room. The caregivers and doctors along the way turned a blind eye to the person carrying the child. Is he from your hospital? No, I don't know him at all. Then why didn't the people along the way react when a stranger carried a child out of the isolation room? Dr. John's expression was also very ugly. He couldn't answer either. The people along the way didn't seem to see the man at all. It's the same person who carried the child out 3 times. He's dressed the same too. He's not a hospital employee, but the people around don't seem to see him at all. Captain, what do we do now? Apart from this video, there are no other clues. Issue a warrant. The captain shook his head. Oh, you guys go back to the station first. Chen Zhao was dozing off in front of the isolation room. Suddenly, a voice woke him up. Hey, buddy, how are you? Chen Zhao looked up and saw a mustached police officer. Hi, what's up? Chen Zhao asked. Are you Jerlin's ex-boyfriend? Yes. Are you here to see the child? The mustached officer asked. I'm here to take the child home, Chen Zhao said. But the adoption documents aren't done yet. Do you want to go out for a drink? Thank you, but I want to stay here, Chen Zhao said. I heard that there have been cases of missing babies in the hospital. I'm worried about my daughter. The mustached man sat beside Chen Zhao. Jerlin is my colleague, Eli Ross, but we're not on the same team. What a pity. She's such an outstanding cop. Can you tell me how Jerlin died? Chen Zhao asked. He didn't know if he would still be with Fei Lai if he'd known that Jerlin was pregnant. Some things could never be verified, but the guilt he felt towards Jerlin was real. I'm not sure about the specifics, but I know that she was investigating a case that happened many years ago before her accident, and she seemed to have obtained crucial evidence. What case? Chen Zhao asked. North Beach shipwreck, Eli Ross said. This case is a man-made accident. Probably, Eli Ross said. I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye. After Eli Ross left, Chen Zhao took out his phone and typed in North Beach shipwreck. The accident had happened 8 years ago. At the time, a sightseeing boat had left the North Beach harbor, but 30 minutes after leaving, it suddenly sank into the water. At the time, there were 58 crew members and tourists on the boat. The rescue team arrived within 15 minutes. 28 people were killed in the accident, and 30 were rescued. Chen Zhao looked through a few similar news articles, but the content was similar. There was no more information. Chen Zhao was unfamiliar with San Francisco, so he didn't know where to start investigating. However, Chen Zhao's main concern now was to get custody of his daughter. As for helping Jerlin find out the truth behind her death and his unfulfilled wish, he could do that after this was over. Help me investigate someone. I want all the information on this person. It'd be best if you can find out if he has a criminal record, a history of drug abuse, or sexual orientation. Alex was very unwilling. From her point of view, the custody of the child should belong to her. She was the closest person to her child, not the man who'd only given her one sperm. Tell me the name of the person you want to investigate. Zhao is a professor at UCLA. Here's 10,000 as a deposit. If you can find any bad records, I'll pay you 50,000 more. Alex thought about it, but she still felt uneasy. She didn't want the child to be snatched away before she could do anything. She had to go to the hospital first. If the adoption agency's documents came, she could stop it in time. Chen Zhao had been sitting outside the isolation room for 10 hours. He stood up and glanced at his daughter in the room. His daughter had already woken up. Her mouth was wide open, and she was babbling. Just then, a nurse came over and opened the room to check every baby. Just then, the nurse came to Chen Zhao's side and picked her up. Chen Zhao saw that the nurse was about to carry the child out, and immediately went to the door. Madam, what's wrong with my daughter? Where are you taking her? The nurse looked up at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, she spat out a mouthful of murky air at Chen Zhao's face. Chen Zhao waved his hand. What are you doing? Suddenly, Chen Zhao realized that the nurse's expression wasn't right. Her expression was very unnatural. Are you okay? The nurse looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. Who are you? Chen Zhao ordered. Put my daughter down. The nurse turned and ran. Chen Zhao chased after her. Stop her! Chen Zhao yelled as he ran. She stole my daughter. Worried about his daughter's safety, Chen Zhao didn't dare to attack. The nurse, on the other hand, didn't care so much. She ran as fast as she could. Her speed was clearly not that of a normal person. She ran very fast. The hospital's security was notified and joined the chase. Seeing that there were people in front of her, the nurse suddenly jumped onto the wall. Defying gravity, she ran 4 or 5 steps on the wall and went around the security. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chen Zhao was probably the only one who was clear-headed. Go away. Don't block the way. Chen Zhao charged past the security and pushed them away. The nurse carried the child and rushed into the stairs. Chen Zhao chased after her, but she didn't run down. Instead, she ran up. The security couldn't keep up with the nurse and Chen Zhao at all. They chased all the way to the rooftop. The nurse carried Chen Zhao's daughter and stood at the edge. Chapter 769. The security guards arrived a minute later. After climbing a few floors, these security guards were exhausted to the point of suffocation. Neither Chen Zhao's words nor the security guard's threats could make the nurse put down the baby. Alex drove to the hospital, but she realized that there were many people crowding downstairs. She couldn't drive in either. She could only get out of the car and look at the rooftop with the crowd. It seemed to be a woman holding a child and standing at the edge of the rooftop. At this moment, the female nurse was holding the baby girl in one hand, and the fingers of her other hand started to draw blood on her forehead. Salis Kala Yike. To others, it was hard to understand, but Chen Zhao understood it. Great Satan, your people are praying to you and offering you the purest sacrifice. With that, the nurse suddenly threw Chen Zhao's daughter off the rooftop. Chen Zhao rushed over and pounced on his daughter, who was outside the rooftop. Ah! The security guards exclaimed. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to pounce on their daughter. They were on the 10th floor, 30 to 40 meters from the ground. Chen Zhao hurriedly put his daughter on his chest. At the same time, he used the dark serum to cushion his and his daughter's chests. Based on his physical strength, if he fell to the ground with his daughter in his arms, even if his daughter was protected by his chest, the impact would still hurt his daughter. However, the darkness original fluid was different. The darkness original fluid was very flexible. Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't be hurt, but he could at least make sure that she wouldn't die. When Alex saw the baby girl being thrown down, she was also startled. But the next moment, she saw Chen Zhao rush down from the rooftop. Alex's eyes were filled with disbelief. Bang! Everyone saw Chen Zhao fall heavily onto the roof of the car with the baby in his arms. And this car happened to be Alex's car. Wah! The moment Chen Zhao's daughter landed on the roof, she burst into tears. Looking at the bloody Chen Zhao, Alex sat up from the roof of the car. Her eyes were still filled with disbelief and shock. Just then, many people rushed out of the hospital, including doctors. Sir, give me the child. Both you and your daughter need treatment. No, I don't trust any of you right now. Chen Zhao rejected directly. Your nurse almost killed my daughter. Sir, you fell from the 10th floor. You need treatment now. No, I don't need treatment. Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. Chen Zhao carried his daughter and started examining her. Fortunately, although they had experienced danger, his daughter was not injured. It was just that when he landed, he was startled. At this moment, the nurse also landed on the ground. However, she fell directly to the ground. Chen Zhao glanced at the nurse. She was in a daze. However, Chen Zhao was sure that she was a believer of some cult. The doctors and security guards didn't force Chen Zhao to hand over the baby. After all, Chen Zhao was the child's father. His actions just now were enough to prove that he was a good father. At least he would risk his life to protect his child. A shy nurse came to Chen Zhao's side and helped him bandage the wound on his head. "Sir, I need to check your brain for a concussion. After all, you fell from such a high place." "I'm fine," Chen Zhao said. "We'll send the best security to protect your daughter." "I don't trust your hospital's security," Chen Zhao said. "Anyway, I won't let my daughter out of my sight. I'll carry her." Just then, Alex walked in. "Don't tell me you don't even trust me?" Chen Zhao looked at Alex. After a moment of silence, he said, "You can carry her, but you also can't leave my sight." Alex was quite displeased with Chen Zhao's attitude. However, Chen Zhao's actions just now were indeed admirable. Of course, this didn't mean that she would give up her custody of Zhilin's daughter because of this. After the examination, the doctor realized that Chen Zhao really only had a skin wound. He had fallen from such a high place and landed on his back, but it was really just a skin wound. Of course, Alex's car had given him a huge cushion. If not for the car, even Chen Zhao would have been injured. However, to the doctor, he was lucky not to fall to his death. On the other hand, Chen Zhao only had minor injuries. It was a miracle. "Sir, you're so strong." The nurse touched Chen Zhao's chest. Her expression seemed to be a little moved. Usually, American girls were very direct when it came to expressing their feelings. Alex rolled her eyes. Chen Zhao didn't respond either. The police came and asked Chen Zhao a simple question. Then, Chen Zhao called Dr. John over. "Dr. John, I need to take the child away now." "Mr. Chen, your procedures haven't been completed yet." "Then I'll sue your hospital." Chen Zhao didn't plan on reasoning with Dr. John. His daughter had almost lost her life because of their mistakes. How could he reason with them? Chen Zhao didn't expect that his first contact with his daughter would be under such circumstances. "Dr. John, you better find another job now, because I'll sue this hospital until it goes bankrupt." "Mr. Chen, can I report this to the director?" "I can't make the decision. I don't want to wait too long. I'll give you 20 minutes. Dr. John hurriedly ran away. Alex glanced at Chen Zhao. She was still hugging little Zhilin. "You haven't gotten the adoption documents yet, so you don't have the right to sue yet. Give me the child. I haven't hugged my daughter enough." Alex looked at the child in her arms and finally gave it back to Chen Zhao. As soon as the girl returned to Chen Zhao's arms, she immediately started giggling. She tried to touch Chen Zhao's cheek with her soft hands. "Why did you break up with Zhilin?" Alex asked. "We can't be considered boyfriend and girlfriend. She's just an accident. I didn't even know of her existence before this. If you think that she's an accident, I don't mind adopting her." "No," Chen Zhao replied firmly. "Since I already know who my daughter is, I won't let her stay with someone else all alone. Name your price." Chen Zhao glanced at Alex. "You'll have a child in the future too. It's immoral to take a child away from her parents." Chapter 770. A while later, Dr. Johann returned. "Mr. Chen, the director has agreed, but before the adoption certificate, please don't leave San Francisco." "Okay, got it." Chen Zhao carried his daughter out of the hospital. Just then, Alex's car stopped before Chen Zhao. "Where are you staying tonight? Didn't I smash your car just now?" "It's not a car." "What's so strange about that?" Alex said. "If you don't have a place to stay, you can stay at my place tonight." "No," Chen Zhao rejected. "I plan on staying at a hotel." "Get in. My place isn't a tiger's den. I'm just a stranger to you, right? How can I bring a stranger home without worry? You can save my Zhilin. I believe you're not a bad person." Chen Zhao sat in Alex's car. "Who named Zhilin?" "Zhilin? No, I did. I think it suits her. Alex said. Qin Zhao considered whether to accept the name. Zherlin Chen? Her Chinese name would be Qin Zherlin? Or Qinggo or Qinlin? Qin Zhao caressed his daughter's cheek. Perhaps she was the continuation of Zherlin's life. Okay, I'll call her Zherlin from now on. Qin Zhao thought about it. Let's go to the supermarket and buy some milk powder and baby products. Yeah, I almost forgot. Alex's house was in a duplex apartment building. From the environment and location of this duplex apartment building, it could be seen that Alex's income was quite high. After putting down his luggage in the guest room, Qin Zhao took out his phone. West, bring all the people from the association to San Francisco tomorrow. President, why are we going to San Francisco? A public holiday, Qin Zhao said. Really? Of course. Just then, Alex knocked on the door. Only then did Qin Zhao realize that Alex was standing at the door. Thankfully, he didn't say anything over the phone. I made a bottle of milk powder for Zherlin. Thank you. Qin Zhao took the bottle and Alex asked, Oh, do you want something to eat? Anything? A moment later, Alex saw Qin Zhao carrying Zherlin into the dining room. You can put her down for now. I'm absolutely safe here. Maybe I'm too nervous, Qin Zhao said. Alex looked at Qin Zhao. She knew that if Qin Zhao wasn't there for the accident today, Zherlin might have died. Therefore, she acknowledged Qin Zhao as her father. Perhaps he was still acting inexperienced now, but at least he was willing to sacrifice for little Zherlin. What do you teach at UCLA? Chinese medicine. The next day, when Alex woke up, she found little Zherlin on the sofa. Just when she thought that Qin Zhao was being irresponsible, she realized that he was working out in the gym through the glass door. Alex laughed self-deprecatingly. This guy was probably a slave to his daughter. Even when it came to fitness, he had to keep an eye on his daughter. Where do you need to go today? I'll see you off. No. Qin Zhao shook his head. I have my own things to do. All right then. Alex looked back at Zherlin. I won't give up on Zherlin. Qin Zhao glanced at Alex. I won't either. Qin Zhao put down the barbell in his hand. Are the things in your gym all this light? She rolled her eyes at Qin Zhao. This was for her own use. Of course, there wouldn't be any male equipment. My house's password is 544,211. If you want to come back, you can come in yourself. Qin Zhao shrugged. Then Alex went to work. How's the Asian I asked you to investigate? Qin Zhao, China. He has a green card and is a professor at UCLA. He's also an illegal doctor. Huh? He's an illegal doctor? That's right. Alex hesitated. Should she use this point as a point of attack? Do you have direct evidence? No. His customers are all rich. My people can't even come into contact with rich people, let alone get them to testify. Does he have any other bad records? No criminal record, but he killed someone in self-defense and went to the police. Are there any loopholes? No. His killing process was recorded by surveillance cameras. Also, the person he killed was an internationally wanted criminal with a very bad crime, so it was perfectly justifiable for him to kill someone. Alex was a bit disappointed but also glad. She didn't have a bad impression of Qin Zhao. If she used murder as an attack point, she might destroy him. How's his work attitude? How's his reputation at UCLA? He's very influential in UCLA and has a very good personal relationship with the principal of UCLA. What about his family? And his private life? The place where he lives is quite remote. It's his private territory, but my people went to the town where he lives to inquire. It's said that he's very rich and has a very luxurious villa. At the same time, he seems to have a lot of pets. Do you have a pet? Alex thought to herself that people who kept pets were generally gentler in nature. This was how Americans thought. Those who had pets were all good people. What about his relationships? I can't find out, but according to the townspeople, the road to his house often has luxurious cars. Is there any other information? His girlfriend is a member of the coastal rescue team. Her name is Faylai Jones. She has no bad records. He's like a blank piece of paper. Alex said, somewhat annoyed. What a headache. If she only used illegal medical practice as an attack point, it wouldn't be enough. She would at least need a witness or evidence, but that would be the most difficult. How did he meet my sister? When he first came to America, he met your sister, Jerlyn. At the time, they met because of a fugitive, and since then, they have been in a relationship. The police in the previous police station where your sister and this Chinese man were previously in knew about their relationship, and the people in that police station also knew this Chinese man. How did they break up? Later, your sister came to San Francisco, and they broke up because of that. Between your sister leaving L.A. and the accident, they only talked 4 times. They probably broke up because of the distance. Does he have any mental illness or something like that? Chapter 771. President, we're at the gate now. Where are you? I see you guys. Walk a few more steps. I'm at the outside of the gate. No. Where are you? West looked around but still didn't see Qin Zhao. President, did you use some invisibility spell? Suddenly, West felt a hard kick on his butt. Looking back, he realized that Qin Zhao was right behind him with a baby in his arms. Because Qin Zhao was carrying the child, West subconsciously ignored Qin Zhao. This was actually a blind spot. It wasn't a curved corner. It was visual information that the mind automatically ignored. President. All the members stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. A president carrying a child? Was he an imposter? This was completely different from Qin Zhao's persona. My daughter, Qin Zhao said. Qin, is there some kind of spell that can make someone pregnant and give birth in a few days? Gaia looked at Qin Zhao with glowing eyes. Can you cast one on me too? I want a child too, but a 10-month pregnancy is too long. There's no spell. It's not my and Faylai's child. President, did you cheat behind Madam's back? Fuck, I didn't cheat. Qin Zhao glared at West. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll rip your mouth off. Why do I feel like this isn't a vacation? West's mood suddenly turned sour. Who said it wasn't a vacation? Qin Zhao said. I'm making it up to you guys for the trip to New York last time. Of course, there's also a small mission. Everyone should have guessed it. As expected, this wasn't a vacation at all. What mission? Yesterday, a cultist threw my daughter off the roof of the hospital. Everyone gasped. They weren't surprised that Qin Zhao's daughter was still alive. They were shocked that someone dared to treat Qin Zhao's daughter like that. Find them. I'm going to tear them apart, all of them. Qin Zhao looked at everyone. Can you do it? Everyone saw the horror and savagery on Qin Zhao's face. After all, even when facing the source of the fallen, Qin Zhao was still smiling mischievously most of the time. This made them think that Qin Zhao would never be serious. But now, they realized that it wasn't that Qin Zhao couldn't be serious. But when he was serious, he was actually a little scary. Clearly, Qin Zhao was really angry this time. However, this was understandable. He threw Qin Zhao's daughter off the roof. How big of a heart did he have to be to dare to do this? Was Qin Zhao really going to start a massacre this time? Hopefully, there aren't too many people in this cult. Even West didn't dare to say anything now. He could really feel the anger in Qin Zhao's tone. Go and find them for me. Yes, guild leader. None of them were in the mood for a vacation. If they didn't help Qin Zhao, they didn't know how he would punish them. All right, don't be so nervous. Find a hotel to stay in first. I'm not in a hurry. Take your time. Haha, no hurry. Whoever would take Qin Zhao's words seriously was an idiot. They didn't want Qin Zhao to ask them if they had any news. After arriving at the hotel, they weren't in the mood to enjoy themselves. They gathered in West's room for a meeting. Which direction should we start investigating? Pamela asked. She'd come this time too. She'd wanted to take a vacation. She didn't expect to encounter something like this. However, she also wanted to help out in this matter. After all, she didn't do much in the previous operations. As a result, she didn't have a high presence in the association. But she couldn't do anything about it. The previous operations were to hunt down the family, the second was in New York, and the third was to deal with the source of the fallen. She wasn't suitable to participate in any of them. This time, they finally had a chance to deal with the cult. Everyone had no idea how to investigate at all. Even Gaia didn't know where to start. Wes thought for a moment and said, "The only clue now is that cultist. The guild leader said she fell to her death. We can investigate her relationships, her social circle, her family, and friends. I'll go to the police station and get their files," Wes said. "Wes, can we also get the police files?" "Of course," Wes said proudly. In an abandoned church in the suburbs of San Francisco. The church was in a mess. The cross in front was already crooked. There were dozens of people gathered here, all wearing black robes. The foreheads of these black-robed men were all engraved with different patterns using daggers. They were all Satanists. Just from the name, one could tell that it was a cult. Although America had freedom of religion, it also gave birth to many weird and even evil religious groups. Satanism was like this. Satanism's doctrine was the destruction of the world. Their actions were similar to terrorists. Of course, they wouldn't set off bombs or anything like that. But their actions weren't any worse than terrorists. Dozens of cultists gathered in front of the magic formation in the center, chanting demonic incantations. It was a satanic prayer, like a monk's or a Christian's prayer. Just then, a black-robed man walked out and said loudly, "Divil failed. She didn't sacrifice to our God. She wasn't devout enough. Her heart wasn't pure enough. Her soul will be punished. She won't be saved by our God before the apocalypse." The black-robed man looked at the other believers. "Lord Serera's can't wait any longer. In order to help Lord Serera's return from the void as soon as possible, you must work harder to find those babies who meet the requirements, and sacrifice them to His Majesty Satan. Leader, all the hospitals in the city are on high alert," a cultist said. "It's hard for the people we've planted in the hospitals to succeed." "Excuses," the black-robed man yelled. "You haven't even tried, yet you think you can't do it. This only means that you're not devout enough." "Who steps forward to receive His Majesty's gift?" The black-robed man looked at the cultists. The cultists stared at the black-robed man with burning eyes. They knew what the so-called gift was. It was the power they dreamed of, the magical power that surpassed ordinary people. A dozen cultists stepped forward. "I'm willing to serve His Majesty." Chapter 772. "Alex, I'm going to move to a hotel," Chen Zhao called her. "Why?" Alex asked, dissatisfied. "I just don't think it's convenient." "Don't go yet. I'll come back now." She didn't have a good chance of fighting for custody with Chen Zhao. Now that Chen Zhao was moving out with little Jerlin, she would have even fewer chances to interact with Jerlin. Chen Zhao and Alex had nothing to do with each other. Their only connection was little Jerlin. Chen Zhao didn't plan on provoking Alex either, so he had to draw a line first. Plus, Alex was going to fight for little Jerlin. They'd definitely have to fight in court in the future. It was better to draw a line as soon as possible. Chen Zhao took his luggage and picked up little Jerlin, leaving Alex's place. As soon as he walked out of the apartment, he suddenly felt someone watching him. Chen Zhao turned his head and realized that the gaze came from an official car across the street. There were 3 people in the car, and they were all armed. Did they recognize him? At this moment, the 3 people in the car also frowned. "What's wrong with that guy? Did he notice us?" "Impossible. He can't see inside the car. Should we capture him to threaten that woman?" "Sure, let's do it." The 3 got out of the car and looked around. Then they walked toward Chen Zhao. "We're the police," one of the bearded men said. "Please come with us." "Let me see your IDs," Chen Zhao said. "Kid, behave yourself." The other man's hand was already on Chen Zhao's shoulder. The three clearly didn't think much of Chen Zhao. After all, he was carrying his luggage with one hand and carrying a child with the other. But Chen Zhao smashed the suitcase on the man's head. The other two immediately took out their guns. The gun was even equipped with a silencer. The police wouldn't equip their guns with silencers. Chen Zhao reacted quickly and snatched the bearded man's gun away. He also broke the man's wrist. Bayubiabubiu. Chen Zhao first shot the bearded man's thigh. Then he shot the other person 4 times. His hands and feet were all pierced by Chen Zhao. At this moment, Alex drove her car over. Chen! What's going on? Hearing that Chen Zhao was leaving, Alex hurried back. In the end, she saw this scene, which gave her a fright. I suspect that they're related to the people who want to hurt Jerlin, Chen Zhao said indifferently. They disguised themselves as police and were about to attack me. At this moment, another SUV stopped. Gaia and the others got out of the car. They were here to help Chen Zhao with his things. Alex looked at Gaia and the others and found that she couldn't tell who they were. It felt like this group of people was a hodgepodge. There were men and women, adults, and even children in this group. But when they saw the 3 people lying in a pool of blood, they were not afraid at all. After all, Chen Zhao was still holding a gun. Just then, they came before Chen Zhao. It seemed that they knew Chen Zhao. Chen, what's going on? Drag them into the car, Chen Zhao said. The 3 of them were pulled into the car by Gaia and the others. Alex, okay, we'll meet again if there's a chance. What are you going to do to them? Investigate, of course. Wait. I think I remember. I know one of them. You know him? Chen Zhao looked at Alex in confusion. I think they work for the defendant in one of my cases, Alex said. I'm the plaintiff's lawyer. So they're here to threaten you? Chen Zhao asked. Are you sure? I think so. Alex wasn't very sure. Chen Zhao walked to the car and said to Gaia. Ask them where they came from. They already said that someone called Jason sent them. They want to capture you to threaten that lady. Who's this Jason? Chen Zhao asked. President, leave it to me, West said hurriedly. You don't need to do anything. You can do it alone? Chen Zhao was very doubtful of West. President, just leave it to me. I promise that this guy will go to jail in 3 days and never come out. Alex was very doubtful of West's words. What was this guy's background? Even the Supreme Court's judge wouldn't dare to say that he could send Jason to jail in 3 days. West had no choice but to agree. If they just wanted to capture Chen Zhao, it wouldn't be a big deal. They even wanted to capture Chen Zhao's daughter. Didn't they know that Chen Zhao had been very irritable recently? Did they want to drag their gang down with them? If Chen Zhao found their boss territory, blood would flow like a river. If Chen Zhao killed dozens or even hundreds of gang members, blood would flow like a river. Even if they were all gang members, it didn't mean that everyone deserved to die. Just thinking about the consequences made West's hair stand on end. That was why he'd volunteered to take the job. What do we do with these 3? Chen Zhao asked. West held his gun and fired 3 shots. Then he looked up at Alex. Miss, you can call the police now. Ah? Alex was shocked by West's ruthless methods. She'd thought that Chen Zhao's gang would kill her. At the very least, they would threaten her. But West's words left her at a loss. Really call the police? Yes, Chen Zhao said. West, Chen Zhao said. I'll leave you here. Bye, Alex. Alex looked at West hesitantly. Do you need me to say it? No. Just tell me the truth. Really? Tell me the truth. Alex was stunned. The police came. West talked to them directly. Then he was brought into the police car. But not long later, West got out of the car. Alex couldn't figure out who West was. Why did he have so much power? Oh, he seemed to have called Chen Zhao president earlier. Who was Chen Zhao? He had the same power as the police. No, he had more power than the police. Even the police couldn't keep shooting when the criminals couldn't fight back. But Wes didn't care at all. He killed the 3 people directly. They must be from some government department. Were they spies or something? Chapter 773. The next day, Alex received a piece of news. The case she was in charge of had been closed. This gave her a fright. She had originally thought that Jason had been released. But after asking around, she found out that there was a major breakthrough in the case. Jason didn't just have the previous crimes. He was also charged with treason. Then, he committed suicide in the detention center. The news scared Alex. She immediately stopped her previous plan. This Qinzhao was too scary. Jason was a rich man. He'd hired a powerful team of lawyers. She tangled with Jason for more than half a year but still couldn't convict him. In the end, in just one night, Jason died in prison. Alex wasn't a kid. She didn't believe that Jason would commit suicide to escape punishment. This was simply impossible. If they wanted to defeat Qinzhao by collecting his dark history, they would be digging their own graves. Jason's 3 subordinates had been shot to death on the street because they defended Qinzhao. Even Jason hadn't been able to escape. Alex didn't know how that person had done it either. But she was sure that the person was very powerful. And that person was Qinzhao's subordinate. It was obvious that Wes couldn't compare to Qinzhao's power. "President, you're not going to do anything?" Wes realized that Qinzhao had really left everything to them. Meanwhile, Qinzhao carried little Jerlin and walked here and there every day. It was like he'd thrown everything to the back of his mind. "I have to take care of the child." "What do you want me to do? What if my daughter is in danger? Are you responsible?" Wes didn't say anything. If Qinzhao's daughter was really in danger, he really couldn't bear the responsibility. "How's the thing I asked you to investigate?" "We found out that 2 of the cultists' accomplices were in Santa Maria Hospital, but they've disappeared. We also found out that their organization is called Satanism." "It doesn't sound like anything good," Qinzhao said. "Do you have any more clues?" "Not yet." "Then hurry up and investigate," Qinzhao said. Just then, Qinzhao's phone rang. "Mr. Chen, I'm John. Are you free now? Your adoption documents are ready, but you need to sign them. Oh, and you'd better bring your daughter here too." "Okay, I'll be right there." Although Jerlin was Qinzhao's actual daughter, society was like this. Without these documents, Qinzhao wasn't Jerlin's legal father. Of course, if something happened to the adoption certificate, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't use other methods to take the child back. After all, Jerlin was his daughter. As long as the law could recognize them as father and daughter, Qinzhao didn't mind following the law. But if the law couldn't uphold justice for him, he didn't feel the need to follow unreasonable laws. Qinzhao excitedly brought Jerlin to the hospital. There were a few people in Dr. John's office. These people were from the child adoption agency. Qinzhao communicated with them for a while. They mainly asked about his personal information, such as his job, income, and family situation. Qinzhao's information on the surface was very beautiful. Other than the fact that he was still single, the rest of the information was almost perfect. Usually, adoption agencies preferred married people to adopt children. Of course, Qinzhao was Jerlin's biological father, not an orphan. Therefore, being single wasn't that important. Moreover, Qinzhao's income, job, and living environment were all important factors. "Mr. Chen, have you and your girlfriend considered getting married?" "Yes," Qinzhao answered. "We'll consider getting married in the next 2 years." Marriage wasn't just for one person. Plus, Qinzhao wouldn't force Fei Lai to get married just for Jerlin. That would be disrespectful to Fei Lai. Qinzhao hoped that he would fully consider Fei Lai's thoughts and stance on marriage. He didn't want to say, "Give me the child and I'll get married immediately." "Then have you and your girlfriend considered having children?" "Yes, that's also in our plan." "What does your girlfriend do for a living?" "She's a member of the Coast Rescue Team. She belongs to the LA Angel Coast Rescue Team. She's a very kind person. She saved 20 people last month, These adoption agencies had a scoring scale. Generally speaking, if the child was above the passing line, they would be able to get custody. Fei Lai's work was also very good. Hearing Fei Lai's answer, the few people nodded in satisfaction. Then do you or your girlfriend have any bad habits? For example, alcoholism. You should have already gotten my information. My girlfriend and I don't pursue pleasure from that kind of stuff. We're both very healthy. We don't have any bad habits, including marijuana. Marijuana was very common in America. For example, the former president, Obama Guanhai, had smoked it when he was young. In fact, in the entire American society, more than 100 million people had smoked or tried it. At least 35 million people would try it a few times a month. California had just legalized marijuana this year. There was a saying in America: if you haven't tried marijuana, it's like you haven't gone to college. Qin Zhao did not comment on this, but he had never liked such things. He didn't flaunt his morals. After all, he wasn't a white sheep who just arrived in America. Right now, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. However, in this kind of situation, one's own lifestyle was also a very big plus. Mr. Chen, I heard from the hospital that you jumped from the 10th floor to save your daughter when you saw her for the first time. Is that right? As a father, I can't let my child die in front of me. I just did what a father should do. To be honest, the people in the adoption agency had been working for a long time, but they had never seen an adopter with such a perfect record. Chen Zhao had even used his actions to prove that he was a good father. At least, he would protect his daughter at all costs. Even if Chen Zhao was Asian, they had no reason to reject his request. Please sign this document, a bespectacled woman said. Then you can take your daughter back. Chapter 774. Carrying little Jerlin, Chen Zhao walked to the door and shook hands with the people from the adoption agency again. Just then, someone touched Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao turned around and saw a male caretaker hurrying over with a baby in his arms. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the caretaker's shoulder. The caretaker turned to look at Chen Zhao. Sir, what's wrong? Where are you taking the child? Chen Zhao asked. Oh, the child's mother is waiting downstairs. I'm taking the child to see her. His mother is taking him out of the hospital. Why do you have to take him down? Why isn't she carrying him herself? The caretaker's expression changed. He shoved Chen Zhao away and tried to escape. Behind them, Dr. John's expression changed drastically. He immediately realized that this was another case of stealing a baby. Grab him! Chen Zhao grabbed the caretaker's shoulder tightly. The caretaker couldn't break free at all. The caretaker's shoulder was almost crushed by Chen Zhao's grip. Chen Zhao was still carrying the child in one hand and the caretaker was also carrying the child. Therefore, Chen Zhao couldn't do anything else. The only thing Chen Zhao could do now was to grab the caretaker so that he couldn't exert any force. This was to prevent him from hurting the child in his arms. The hospital's security guards came and snatched the child from the caretaker's arms. The other two guards pressed the caretaker to the ground. Only then did Chen Zhao let go. Just then, the woman from the adoption agency said, Mr. Chen, how did you know there's something wrong with him? The child's mother is a police officer, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Chen Zhao said with a smile. But when he said this, he felt a little upset. Although he and Jerlin had parted on good terms, he never thought that he wouldn't even have the chance to see her one last time. It was as if Jerlin had been having fun with him yesterday, but today, they would never see each other again. Suddenly, the caretaker who had been pressed down by the two guards flipped them over. He jumped up and pounced at the guard who was carrying the child. Give it to me! This is Satan's gift! Give it to me! Chen Zhao couldn't just stand by now. He turned little Jerlin's head to his chest and stepped forward, kicking out. Bang! Chen Zhao's kick landed on the male nurse's chest. Everyone could hear the sound of his bones cracking. Then, he flew out and smashed into the wall behind him. When he fell back to the ground, he was no longer breathing. Oh no, I was too heavy-handed. In that instant, Chen Zhao didn't think too much. In a moment of hot-headedness, he struck heavily, or rather, heavily kicked. The power of this kick was probably 3 tons. The man's injuries were probably similar to being hit by a truck. Mr. Chen, I can testify for you. You're trying to protect a child, the woman from the adoption agency said. Yes, I can also testify for you. I think what you did was right. Those who hurt children should not be forgiven, another person said. Thank you. Actually, Chen Zhao wasn't worried about being punished. The real reason why he felt that he was too heavy-handed was because he wanted to keep them alive. However, with this kick, the male nurse's internal organs would probably be smashed to pieces. Mr. Chen, this is my name card. If you're punished for this incident, you can call me no matter where or when. I'm willing to testify for you at any time. Thank you, Ms. Mera. Chen Zhao only knew the woman's name after looking at the card. Mera and the other people from the adoption agency waited until the police arrived and helped Chen Zhao prove the whole story before leaving. As for the cultist, he was indeed hopeless. Chen Zhao had sent him to God with a kick, or sent him to see his master, Satan. Before Chen Zhao walked out of the hospital, Gaia and West arrived. President, I heard that there's a cultist here. How is it? Did you catch him? West asked anxiously. Yes, I caught him. Chen Zhao nodded. Where is he? Did the police take him away? No, he's still in the hospital. Oh, did you injure him? Which room is he in? West asked. The morgue. Chen, you killed the cultist? I accidentally hit him too hard. West cursed inwardly. Whose fault was this? We've helped you run around so hard, but you're here messing around. Whatever, you're the boss. We can't afford to offend you. Where are the others? Chen Zhao asked. They went to other hospitals, West said. I suspect that it's not just Santa Maria Hospital that had a baby theft incident. It might be happening in other hospitals too. Let me know if there's any news, Chen Zhao said. Just then, Alex's car stopped before Chen Zhao. Get in. Chen Zhao could tell from Alex's tone that she was very unhappy. She must have known that he had gotten custody of her. Congratulations, Alex said reluctantly after driving for a few blocks. If she wanted custody again, Chen Zhao would have to make a mistake. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to be Jerlin's guardian anymore. Alex, you'll have your own children in the future. Why steal Jerlin from me? I won't have children, Alex said, somewhat disappointed. Is there something wrong with your fertility? I'm a doctor. If you need it, maybe I can treat you. There's nothing wrong with my fertility. The problem is my sexual orientation. So she's a lesbian. Chen Zhao didn't expect that. Maybe you can consider a child from an orphanage. According to California law, both gays and lesbians had the right to adopt orphans. This is Jerlin's death report, and the information I've gathered these days. Chen Zhao took a folder and took out the documents inside. Jerlin had been 9 months pregnant at the time, but she was still working. Chen Zhao was a bit annoyed. Jerlin's actions were completely suicidal. Now she was really going to die. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. The gunman had shot her 3 times. After she was sent to the hospital, she underwent a laparotomy and treatment for her gunshot wounds, but she still couldn't escape death. Is there a suspect? Chen Zhao asked. Cisco Owen was supposed to be serving his sentence in prison. When Jerlin's accident happened, he had just escaped from prison for a day. He escaped because he was being transferred to another prison. But with his crimes, he shouldn't have been transferred to Beer Prison. Beer Prison is a prison for misdemeanors. But Cisco Owen is a serious criminal. He's killed and raped many times. There's no reason to transfer him to Beer Prison. Chapter 775. Chen Zhao continued flipping through the documents. Cisco Owen's behavior in prison could be described as terrible. Plus, with his crimes, he didn't have the right to be transferred to a light prison. But the warden actually signed Cisco Owen's transfer request. This meant that there was something wrong with the warden. Someone must have bribed the warden. Otherwise, he'd be muddle-headed to sign the request. Do you have a way to find out? Alex asked. I'll try, Chen Zhao said. Do you need me to take care of little Jerlin? Chen Zhao shook his head. San Francisco isn't peaceful recently. There's a group of people who specialize in kidnapping kids. I can't let Jerlin leave my sight. It's a society ruled by law. They can't kidnap kids on the streets, right? Unfortunately, there was another kidnapping incident in the hospital just now, Chen Zhao said. Another one? Yes, so it's best to be careful. Who knows when another lunatic will pop up? Fine, but is it convenient for you to investigate with a kid like this? Aren't you afraid that Jerlin will be in danger? As long as she's by my side, she won't be in danger. Alex didn't know where Chen Zhao's confidence came from. But now that custody weren't in her hands, what could she do? Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't go find the warden directly. Chen Zhao brought Pamela to the warden's neighborhood. It was getting dark. Chen Zhao wasn't familiar with the neighborhood, so he couldn't find the warden's house number after searching for a long time. Pamela, go find that old bastard's house. It should be nearby. Pamela floated out. Just then, there were a few gunshots in the distance. Chen Zhao immediately perked up. Pamela floated back. President, that old bastard's entire family is dead. Where's the killer? Chen Zhao asked. Gone. The killer is very professional. He ran into the forest from the backyard. Damn, someone beat him to it. Wait, it had already been half a month since Jerlin's accident. Nothing had happened to the warden. Why now? Only he and Alex knew that Chen Zhao wanted to investigate the warden. He definitely wouldn't leak the secret. The only one who could have leaked the information was Alex. But that didn't make sense. Alex couldn't have leaked the secret. Even if he was fighting with her for custody of little Jerlin, there was no need for her to be so ruthless. Moreover, if he was in danger, little Jerlin would be in danger as well. To put it bluntly, they were people with a bottom line, so Alex wouldn't do that. Chen Zhao thought of a possibility. The documents that Alex had given him. The culprit must have found out about this when she was looking for the documents. That was why he was the first to get rid of the prison warden. Oh no, if that's the case, Alex will be in danger too. Jerlin had been killed while investigating this matter. Now, Alex might also be in danger. Chen Zhao immediately turned around and called Alex at the same time. Alex, are you home now? You might be in danger. No matter who knocks on the door, don't answer. What's wrong? Alex asked, confused. When I arrived at the prison warden's house, the killer beat me to it. The prison warden's entire family has gone to meet God. Knock knock. Just then, he heard someone knocking on the door. Someone's knocking on my door. Alex became nervous too. Don't open the door. Wait for me. Chen Zhao only hoped that Alex's security door could last a little longer. At the moment, a few sneaky figures were outside Alex's door. I can't open it. It's a password lock. A bald man shook his head, troubled. Just then, another person stood out. He took out a silencer and fired at the lock. The bullet bounced back and almost hit one of their own. Fuck, it's useless. Is this a security door? Why does it feel like a vault door? This is a high-end apartment building. The people here are all rich. Whatever, let's go. That woman must have called the police already. We don't have time. These people made a prompt decision and immediately turned around to leave. They didn't hesitate at all. It wasn't impossible for them to force their way in. But they weren't confident that they could break through the door in a short time. If they took too long and the police came, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they wanted to. They walked out of the apartment building. A man carrying a child walked toward them. But when the man saw them, he stood still. Did that man notice something wrong with us? One of them asked suspiciously. Who cares? If he dares to mess around, I'll give him a bullet. The few people swaggered toward Chen Zhao. Qin Zhao gently caressed Zherlin in his arms. She was sleeping soundly. The more they walked, the slower they became. They could already feel Qin Zhao's gaze. It wasn't a gaze of suspicion, but a gaze of confirmation. He knew their background and identity. The leader of the criminals looked around. There was no one else around, and there were no surveillance cameras. He pointed his gun at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao looked at him. You don't have a silencer. Ha! I like guns without silencers. But suddenly, darkness engulfed the man. This is... Oh! It was as if asphalt had been poured on his head. It instantly engulfed the leader. Then, the darkness engulfed the man completely. The remaining four hurriedly pointed their guns at Qin Zhao. Panic and disbelief were written all over their faces. Qin Zhao looked at the four before him. Who doesn't have a silencer? Put it on yourself. If you disturb my daughter when you shoot, I'll make you disappear into the darkness forever. The four's legs trembled as they stared at Qin Zhao in fear. They didn't even dare to shoot. They just kept trembling. Open! One of them was about to call his partner to shoot, but he was immediately swallowed by the darkness again. I said, don't shoot without a silencer. The three paled in fear. Looking at their guns, they immediately threw them away. Don't kill us. Tell me, who sent you? The three of them looked at each other, all hesitating. Forget it. This isn't the place to interrogate. The dark prime fluid surrounded the three of them once again. Without any resistance, the three of them were completely engulfed by the dark prime fluid and disappeared into the darkness. Qin Zhao stuffed all five of them into the trunk. As for whether the trunk would be too crowded, he didn't feel it, so it didn't matter. Chapter 776. Seeing that no one had spoken for a long time, Alex first looked outside through the door. Was there no one outside? There seemed to be some noise downstairs. She ran to the balcony and looked down. It was already dark, but Alex still saw Qin Zhao get out of the car. Then she saw Qin Zhao, who was carrying little Zherlin, face off with a few people. They were pointing their weapons at Qin Zhao, but because they were quite far away, she couldn't see clearly. Alex didn't know what to do, but something strange happened. She didn't know what was going on either. Qin Zhao didn't do anything, but the people put down their guns. Then she saw Qin Zhao drag 5 people into the trunk with one hand. They seemed to be tied up with black ropes. Alex immediately rushed downstairs. She only had time to see Qin Zhao's rear lights. Alex immediately returned to the garage and chased after Qin Zhao in her car. There weren't many cars on the road. Although Alex had to drive for a few minutes, she still found Qin Zhao's car. She followed him all the way to a rather desolate suburb. Just then, Alex's phone rang. Alex, why are you following me? Qin Zhao's voice came from the other end. You know I'm following you? Of course. This road is so secluded. Unless I'm blind, there's only 2 headlights. I saw you arrest 5 people. Are you going to call the police? No, they're all related to Zherlin's death. Alex wasn't a law-abiding person. In fact, not many lawyers would actually follow the law completely. Their job was to find loopholes in the law. Just then, Qin Zhao stopped the car and Alex followed. You shouldn't be here. Qin Zhao carried little Zherlin and looked at Alex, who ran over. Why can't I be here? You even brought little Zherlin here. She doesn't know anything. Also, look, she's already asleep. What do we do next? Carry the child. Qin Zhao shoved little Zherlin into Alex's arms. When he opened the trunk, the 5 people were about to become deformed. The trunk was only so big, and the 5 of them weren't small. If they were locked in for another 20 minutes, they would probably suffocate. Alex was a bit puzzled. She clearly saw that these 5 people were tied up with black ropes. How could they disappear now? Forget it, maybe I'm seeing things. Qin Zhao dragged a person down. The man screamed in fear. Wow! Little Zherlin was startled awake, and then she burst into tears. Alex hurriedly comforted little Zherlin. Qin Zhao grabbed the man's mouth. Please don't make any noise. You're scaring my daughter. Alex looked at Qin Zhao. He did wake your daughter up, but you scared him so much that he peed his pants. The 4 people in the trunk listened to the screams outside, which were far scarier than the ones outside. Humans' greatest fear came from the unknown. They didn't know what was going on outside, so they were more afraid than facing Qin Zhao directly. Alex didn't know what Qin Zhao was doing either. He seemed to be stuffing something into the man's mouth. Then, the man began to struggle and spasm, but he couldn't make a sound. Alex, do you want to rest in the car? Qin Zhao asked. I don't need it. But my little Jerlin needs it. Qin Zhao looked at Alex. Alex thought about it and returned to the car. She probably understood what Qin Zhao was thinking. It wasn't convenient for an outsider like her to participate in some things. Perhaps the following scene would be very cruel. Alex carried little Jerlin back to the car and closed the window. Then Qin Zhao pulled the second person out of the trunk. Seeing his partner on the ground, the man's legs went soft. Qin Zhao stuffed another ball of dark serum into his mouth. Then a third person, then a fourth, then a fifth. Alex couldn't hear the 5 people's screams, but she could see them spasm on the ground. It was a silent pain. Although she couldn't hear anything, it was even more terrifying than the screams. Tell me who sent you, Qin Zhao said. Whoever is willing to speak can raise their hands. If not, you'll suffer like this forever. The 5 people fought to raise their hands. Qin Zhao picked one. The man's pain suddenly disappeared and he could make a sound. Tell me. A moment later, Qin Zhao got his answer. The 5 people were thugs. They belonged to a local gang. A moment later, Qin Zhao returned to the car. Do you know the Black Wolf Gang? Yes, a famous gang in San Francisco. Is this related to them? Qin Zhao took out his phone and dialed the number. Hello, you're Mr. Scott, right? Qin Zhao asked. Who are you? Why are you holding Rat's phone? I want to ask who told you to send people to harass Ms. Alex. What happened to Rat and the others? Mr. Scott, please answer my question directly, okay? Release my people. Otherwise, I will make sure that you and your family will never be able to live in peace. Looks like our friendly negotiation failed. I'll go find you now. Qin Zhao hung up and turned to Alex. Go to 16th Street. Scott was furious. He hadn't faced such a rude challenge in a long time. In San Francisco, everyone knew that he was a butcher. But now, someone actually dared to talk to him like this. Of course, someone who dared to talk to him like this probably had powerful weapons. Scott immediately gathered all his subordinates in the headquarters. Boss, what's going on? Scar was Scott's right-hand man. He'd once been a mercenary, but because he'd broken some mercenary rules, he'd been ostracized by the entire group. In the end, Scott had taken him in. Scott's current status was largely due to the group of gunmen trained by Scar. After Scar's military training, the gunmen might not be comparable to real soldiers, but their combat ability wasn't something regular gangsters could compare to. We'll have an uninvited guest tonight, Scott said. Just one? Maybe a powerful armed force. I'm not sure how strong he is right now. Scott's eyes flashed. Bring him to me. No one has ever spoken to me so rudely. No matter who he is, I'll make sure he doesn't leave. Chapter 777. Qin, are you sure you want to go in alone? Alex looked at the 7 or 8-story building in front of her. That building was the headquarters of the Black Wolf Gang. On the surface, it looked like a security company, but even hoodlums didn't dare to come here. The entire building was pitch black. There was no light at all. How about you come with me? Don't even think about it. Qin Zhao shrugged. Actually, I'm only going in to negotiate. I might not use force. Can't I come tomorrow? I'm busy during the day. Qin Zhao combed his hair. Alex stared at him. Do you really think you're here to negotiate? Qin Zhao walked into the building. Immediately, there were gunshots. Alex shuddered in fear. Then there was silence. That guy isn't dead, right? Alex thought to herself. Scar stood in front of the second floor's fence, holding a sniper rifle. He looked at the corpse lying in the hall. Boss, it's done. There's only one person. Sorry, no one survived. It's fine, Scott said, unconcerned. If he's dead, then he's dead. Captain, the corpse is gone. Gone? Scar was stunned. Boss, the situation has changed. Thud, thud, thud. Help! In the darkness, the people lying in ambush in the hall kept screaming. Come to the first floor for reinforcements, come to the second floor. But after the screams, the first floor fell into dead silence. There was no sound at all. There wasn't a single person to be seen. Scar's heart trembled. He'd miscalculated. Suddenly, a cold hand appeared from the darkness without any warning and grabbed Scar's neck. You shot me just now, right? Qin Zhao's voice rang in Scar's ears. Scar spun around and pulled out his gun to point at Qin Zhao, but there was no one behind him. Damn! Scar tried to turn around again, but Qin Zhao had already grabbed his wrist and pointed the gun upwards. Scar tried to break free, but he wasn't strong enough to shake Qin Zhao's grip. Qin Zhao increased the strength of his palm. Scar screamed. Just like that, Qin Zhao dragged him up. Alex kept looking at the building in front of her. Although the building was dark, they could still see the light of the gunfire. First, there was the flash of light on the first floor, then the fire on the second floor, then the third, fourth, fifth. Alex's mind was a mess. A single person breaking into a fully armed gang's headquarters and continuously breaking through it? Could he wipe out the entire gang by himself? At this moment, Scott, who was on the top floor of the building, was also panicking. Based on the report from his subordinates, the other party was constantly breaking through and had already reached the 6th floor. No matter how many ambushes he set up, how many gunmen. Even if they used their only heavy machine gun, they still couldn't stop that person from breaking through. Every time he spoke to his subordinates through the walkie-talkie, it was as if they were on the battlefield. Gunshots and explosions rang out one after another. The fear continued to spread. After more than 10 minutes, the gunshots on the 7th floor stopped. At this moment, the elevator to the 8th floor opened. Scott quickly raised his gun and pointed it at the open elevator door. The elevator was littered with corpses, and the entire elevator was dyed red with blood. There was only one person standing inside. Scott looked at the Asian nervously. Who are you? What are you trying to do? Scott roared hysterically. Who told you to send those people to cause trouble for my sister-in-law? Or was it your own request? Did you kill my daughter's mother? Qin Zhao walked out of the elevator. I don't understand what you're saying. You don't understand? Qin Zhao walked toward Scott. Scott immediately yelled nervously. Don't come over, don't come over. I'm going to shoot. But his yelling couldn't stop Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao still walked toward Scott. You have one last chance. Who told you to send people? A member of Bright Electronics' board of directors, Scott finally answered. He couldn't take it anymore. He didn't want to face Qin Zhao anymore. There were dozens of gunmen in the entire building, but Qin Zhao had actually broken through. He knew that the gun in his hand couldn't guarantee his safety at all. Where were his subordinates? Were they dead or alive? Then why did they do this? Qin Zhao asked. I don't know. I just took the money. An hour later, Qin Zhao returned to the car. The moment Qin Zhao opened the door, Alex could feel the smell of blood on Qin Zhao's body. Just as she was about to ask, Qin Zhao spoke first. Cover little Jerlin's ears. What? Cover my daughter's ears. Why? Rumble, the 8-story building began to emit violent explosions. Amidst the flames and explosions, the building started collapsing. Wah! Little Jerlin was startled awake again, and with a wah, she began to cry. See, Jerlin woke up in fright again. You killed them all? Qin Zhao didn't answer Alex's question. Instead, he changed the topic. Do you know Bright Electronics? Yes, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Is there a problem? Bright Electronics is related to Jerlin's death, Qin Zhao said. What? Alex exclaimed. How did my sister get involved with them? I don't know, Qin Zhao said. It's related to the sightseeing ship shipwreck 8 years ago. Your sister was investigating this case at the time. It might be related to Bright Electronics. Alex's expression turned serious. If Bright Electronics is related to Jerlin's death, what are you going to do? There's a saying in China, a life for a life, a debt for money. Can't we go through legal means? Alex asked. Don't be funny. You should know what kind of political protection a multi-billion-dollar company gets. Legal means definitely won't bring them to justice. West could contact the government and convict some criminal groups. But he couldn't touch a multi-billion-dollar company either. When you gave me the information, you should have known that I wouldn't go through legal means, right? Alex had indeed thought of using Qin Zhao's power to take revenge for Jerlin. But she didn't expect Qin Zhao to be so unyielding. Anyone who was involved in this matter was sent to God. It wasn't just 1 or 2 people. Just tonight, dozens of people from the Black Wolf gang had all died. Alex even felt a bit regretful. She didn't expect Qin Zhao to kill so many people just to avenge Jerlin. Was he still a university professor? Chapter 778. After half a night, Qin Zhao went back to Alex's house and stayed for the night. Did you give this bracelet to Jerlin? Qin Zhao asked curiously. No. It wasn't you. Alex was also confused. I was wondering if you Chinese have a tradition of giving your daughters silver bracelets. Of course not. Qin Zhao held Jerlin's wrist. He'd seen it before, but he hadn't observed it closely. Now that he looked at it again, it didn't look like a normal silver accessory. Qin Zhao reached out to take it off, but he couldn't pry it open. He didn't dare to use too much strength in case he hurt Jerlin. What's wrong? Alex asked. Nothing. Qin Zhao shook his head. Alex didn't really believe him. Qin Zhao's expression had clearly changed when he'd seen the bracelet. However, she couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Then Qin Zhao carried Jerlin back to the house. Alex could vaguely hear Qin Zhao talking on the phone in the guest room. He seemed to be talking about silver bracelets and cults. President, we've checked. The missing children do have silver bracelets, West said. Go search now. Check all the hospitals. If the bracelets appear on the children's hands, they might be targets of cultists. With this clue, West and the others didn't run around like headless flies like before. West notified the other members of the society. They were now squatting at all the hospitals and investigating. Gaia and more teamed up. They were now outside a baby isolation room. Officer, it's those two. They've been sitting outside the room for the whole night. I suspect they have ulterior motives. The doctor pointed at Gaia and more across the aisle. At the moment, both of them were a bit dispirited. After all, they hadn't slept for the whole night. They didn't have much energy. The officer walked over with his men. You two, I suspect you have ulterior motives. Please follow me back to the station for investigation. Fuck, do you know who we are? Moore stood up immediately. Pointing at the officer, he yelled. You say we're bad guys? We're protecting these children. Gaia and Lamor. Lamor was usually like a harmless white mouse in front of Qin Zhao. If he was facing an outsider, he would be extremely arrogant. But the police didn't care who they were. He took out the handcuffs and cuffed Moore and Gaia's hands. Fuck you, are you an idiot? You shut up. Gaia glared at Moore. At that moment, a nurse walked out of the isolation room with a child in her arms. Gaia's eyes flashed, and he suddenly shouted. Stop! Then, the caretaker ran away. Quick, catch him! Gaia immediately gave chase, but Moore screamed and was pulled down by Gaia. Hurry up and untie us. That guy specializes in stealing babies. As soon as the police saw the caretaker, he felt it too. However, he ignored Gaia and Moore and chased after the caretaker. Gaia tore off the handcuffs on her and Moore's hands and chased after them. The policeman only felt a gust of wind blow past him before he saw Gaia rush forward. Stop! Gaia pounced on the caretaker. The caretaker turned around and raised a hand, pushing Gaia. Bang! Gaia's entire body flew out and smashed heavily into the wall. Then, the caretaker crashed into the glass window and jumped out. The policeman was dumbfounded. He looked down and saw the caretaker land steadily on the ground. The policeman wanted to jump down too, but he was terrified when he saw the height. Gaia stood up again. He'd underestimated his opponent. Then, Gaia rushed out of the window and landed steadily on the ground. Gaia was about to chase after him when he heard a cry from upstairs. Catch me! Gaia looked up and saw the policeman jumping down. Gaia had no choice but to catch him. It was as if he was carrying a princess in his arms. Are you okay? I'm fine. The policeman felt like his waist was about to break. Gaia's arms were like steel bars. He fell from more than 10 meters. Although Gaia reduced some of the force, the policeman still fell hard. Gaia was about to chase after him when the policeman shouted, Get in my car! Although the policeman's entire body was in pain, he endured the pain and shouted. His car was right next to him. Gaia looked back and rushed into the police car. Hurry up, catch up! It was early in the morning, so there weren't many cars on the street. The caretaker also jumped into a car with the child. A street chase began. Drive faster. Can you do it? If you can't, I'll drive, Gaia urged. Fuck, this is a police car, not a sports car. The policeman was also nervous. After all, it was a baby that had been stolen from under his nose. He couldn't lose it no matter what. The policeman gritted his teeth and stepped on the gas. Who are you? The policeman asked. I'm not a bad person, Gaia said, his eyes fixed on the fleeing car in front. The policeman didn't say anything, although he wasn't sure of Gaia's identity. However, when it came to saving the child, they were on the same side. The two cars quickly drove out of the city, and the car in front turned into a country road. Not long after, the car in front of them stopped. Two people got out of the car. One of them was the caretaker who had stolen the child. The policeman stopped his car and pointed his gun at the two people. Stop! Don't move! The caretaker didn't care about the policeman's threat at all. Suddenly, she sped toward the policeman. Bang! The policeman opened fire. Although the caretaker was shot, she didn't slow down. Gaia pushed the policeman away, and the caretaker landed on the hood of the police car. What are you doing? The policeman shouted angrily. Do you want to die? Gaia glared at the policeman. I have a gun in my hand. But just then, the caretaker tore the hood of the police car off. The force almost made the policeman's eyes fall out. Step back, Gaia said. This thing isn't something you can handle. You're the one who should step back, woman, the policeman said relentlessly. Gaia looked at the policeman. The policeman was frightened by Gaia's gaze and took 2 steps back. The caretaker grabbed the hood of the car and threw it at Gaia and the policeman. Gaia raised her leg and swept it horizontally, sending the caretaker flying. Gaia loosened her muscles. The child is in the car. Go and carry him down. Leave this to me. The policeman looked at Gaia and swallowed his words. But after a few steps, he suddenly stopped. Chapter 779. The policeman retreated to Gaia's side. Can you explain what that thing is? Gaia looked at the man. He was now at least twice as tall. His skin had darkened and was covered in a layer of scales. His palms had grown sharp claws, and a large tail had appeared behind him. His pupils had also become inhuman. He looked like a lizard man. Just then, the mutated lizard man pounced at Gaia and the policeman. Swish! Gaia's chest was scratched by the strange man's claws. Gaia didn't show any mercy. She punched the strange man's head with great force. If this punch landed on an ordinary person's head, it would definitely be smashed like a watermelon. But this lizard man was unharmed. Of course, it wasn't completely useless. The strange man was also stunned by the punch. "Go get the child out," Gaia shouted. At the same time, she kicked the lizard man away. The policeman ran to the car where the child was placed. The caretaker pounced on it. The policeman was so frightened that he turned around and fired 2 shots at the caretaker. Bang, bang. Although the bullets were embedded in the caretaker's body, the caretaker didn't feel any pain. He didn't even bleed. A cruel smile appeared on the caretaker's face. He raised his fist and was about to hit the policeman's head. Gaia sprinted and hugged the caretaker's waist. Then she stabbed him upside down. "Do you know how to save people? Useless!" The policeman was embarrassed and annoyed, but he was indeed a little stunned by the fight between Gaia and the 2 monsters. At this time, he didn't dare to delay anymore. Gaia and the 2 monsters were fighting fiercely. It seemed that Gaia was even slightly injured. The 3 of them were in a complete mess. Gaia was still struggling to fight 1 against 2. The main reason was that she didn't have her weapon with her. The caretaker pounced on Gaia and bit hard at her neck. Even though Gaia had copper skin and iron bones, the bite was painful. However, this bite also angered Gaia. Gaia didn't care that the caretaker was still biting her neck. She directly pulled the caretaker down. The caretaker's mouth was still stained with blood from Gaia's neck. Gaia pried open the caretaker's mouth. She took a deep breath and spewed dragon breath at the caretaker's mouth. Then, with a kick, the caretaker's body exploded in midair with a bang. The policeman got out of the car with the baby in his arms. He happened to see this scene. "Are you a monster too?" Gaia glared at the policeman. "Protect the child." The policeman stopped talking. He also felt that his words were too much. After all, Gaia was trying to protect him and the child. The other lizard man saw that its companion was dead, but it didn't run away. Instead, he ran to the corpse, picked up a black sphere, and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, the lizard men began their second mutation. The lizardmen's limbs began to grow stronger, and their fangs and claws became sharper. Gaia twisted his neck. He could tell that the lizard man had become more difficult to deal with. "Hey, can you handle it?" the policeman asked. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, this wouldn't have happened. Why are you blaming me? Originally, my partner and I were protecting the child, but you actually wanted to arrest us. If my partner was here, I wouldn't have fallen into such a bitter battle. Now I don't even have my own weapon. How would I know that you were protecting the child?" The policeman defended himself. The lizard man was no longer a lizard man. It was more like a lizard monster. It had more parts of a lizard than a human. The lizard monster moved and pounced at Gaia again. Gaia punched out, and the lizard monster only staggered back. Then, it slashed at Gaia with its claws. Gaia hurriedly dodged. She didn't dare to let the lizard monster sweep its claws. The lizard monster's claws were like daggers. One touch would take half of a person's life. The lizard monster also noticed Gaia's actions. It waved its 10 claws in front of Gaia. Facing such an airtight attack, Gaia couldn't do anything. The policeman saw that this wouldn't work. Gaia clearly couldn't do anything to the lizard monster. He raised his gun and shot at the lizard monster. This shot attracted the lizard monster's attention. The policeman was so scared that he peed his pants. He turned around and ran with the baby. The lizard monster was just about to pounce on the policeman when Gaia grabbed its big tail. The lizard monster swung its tail, trying to fling Gaia away. But Gaia's strength was also extraordinary. She was stronger than the lizard monster. Gaia pulled the lizard monster's tail and turned it into a windmill. Gaia smashed the door into a hard spot. She smashed it into a tree, then a rock, and finally a police car. Although the lizard monster was strong, it couldn't withstand such a flurry of attacks. At this moment, a car rushed over. Seeing the car, Gaia smashed the lizard monster into the car. Bang! The lizard monster was stunned by the impact and stood up shakily. Just then, Moore poked his head out of the car. "Gaia, your weapon!" Moore wanted to throw Gaia's weapon to her. But Gaia's weapon was too heavy. Gaia rushed to the front of the car, grabbed the big sword in the back seat, and slashed at the dazed lizard monster. Alive! Alive! Moer shouted. Gaia also reacted at this moment. She changed from slashing to slapping. Bang! The lizard monster was slapped away by the big sword the size of a door. With the weapon, Gaia's combat ability skyrocketed. The police officer was mesmerized by Gaia's majestic appearance. Gaia slashed again. She used the big sword as a hammer. Facing Gaia with the big sword, the lizard monster couldn't resist at all. Gaia slashed again. This time, Gaia cut off the lizard monster's left leg. But the lizard monster, whose left leg had been cut off, lay on the ground and moved forward like a lizard. Its movement wasn't affected by the loss of a leg. Instead, it was even more agile than before. However, it was still a little weaker than Gaia right now. 80% of Gaia's combat ability was based on the big sword. Gaia slashed again, and the lizard monster's right arm was cut off. This time, it completely lost its ability to move and couldn't resist anymore. The police officer immediately ran to the lizard monster and pointed his gun at it. Don't move. You're under arrest. You have the right to go away. Gaia pushed the police officer away. Do you know you're attacking a police officer? The police officer said unhappily. Gaia's response was a middle finger. The police officer felt wronged. I don't want to argue with a woman. Gaia pulled the lizard monster's tail and walked to her car. Where are you taking him? He's a suspect now. He's my captive. Don't you agree? Gaia looked at the police officer. Chapter 780. Benjamin kept explaining to his captain. Captain, I'm not lying. It's the monster that kidnapped the children, and the big woman. You've seen the surveillance footage from the hospital. The footage has been deleted, the captain said. In addition, although you saved the child, I still hope that you can be honest and not exaggerate your achievements. In addition, your car will be under the public account. You don't have to worry about having to bear the maintenance costs because of your mistakes. I'm not worried about that. Captain, I'm telling the truth. The woman caught the lizard monster, Benjamin said excitedly. Captain, I've checked. In the past 3 months, 14 children have gone missing in San Francisco. All of them were born less than a month ago. Now there's a group of monsters out there stealing children. I think we have to be vigilant. The other woman must know more. We should find her and get clues from her. Okay, Ben, be quiet. Maybe you hit your head, so you're a little confused. I'll give you 3 days of paid leave to relax. Benjamin was very dissatisfied with the captain's distrust of him. Captain, I'm not hurt. I don't need a leave. I want to investigate this case. Ben, if you keep nagging, I'll make you hand over your badge. Benjamin wanted to say more, but the captain didn't trust him at all. In the end, Benjamin could only slam the door and leave angrily. He believed what he had seen, and he was very sure of what he had seen and experienced. It wasn't something that he had guessed, nor was it something that he had made up. Since the captain didn't believe him, he would investigate it himself. Benjamin held back his anger. The more people doubted him, the more he wanted to prove it to them. Benjamin ran to the archives. Hey, Carrie, can you help me look up some information? What do you want to look for? Carrie, the archives manager, asked. Cases related to children in San Francisco in the last 3 months. Are you kidding me? There are at least 1,000 cases. Hospitals, newborns. Okay. Carrie then helped Benjamin search for cases. A moment later, Carrie came out with dozens of cases. Do you need me to print them out? Of course, I'll treat you to dinner later. Benjamin took the printed case file and found a place to flip through it. Silver bracelet? Benjamin frowned. He found a picture of one of the missing children. The child was wearing a silver bracelet. Benjamin remembered that when he saved the child today, the child was also wearing a silver bracelet. Nehaman's heart skipped a beat. Was this bracelet the key? Benjamin flipped to the next file and suddenly saw a photo. An Asian man covered in blood was carrying a child. The child was also wearing a silver bracelet. Benjamin carefully looked through the case records. In order to save his child who had been thrown down from the rooftop, the Asian man had jumped to save his own child. In the end, he had used himself as a cushion to protect the child. Benjamin looked at the case file. Since the child was also wearing a silver bracelet, it was very likely that he was also the target of the monsters. Even if this child's life was saved by his father, the monsters might still see this child as a target. "Chen, where are you now?" Alex called him. "Hotel," Chen Zhao answered. "I'll go to your place." A while later, Alex arrived at Chen Zhao's hotel. She handed him a document. "What's this time?" "Take a look yourself." Chen Zhao took out the document and flipped through it. Some were police investigation reports and some were old newspaper clippings. "Just tell me. It's giving me a headache." Chen Zhao put down the document. There were so many things. His head hurt. There were 58 people on the North Beach sightseeing boat. 30 were saved and 28 were killed, including the former chairman of Bright Electronics and his family. Alex said. After the former chairman and his family died, the current chairman took out an equity transfer contract and took all of the former chairman's shares in Tongming Electronics. In other words, it's murder for money? Chen Zhao asked, frowning. It's not that simple. In fact, Bright Electronics provides automated production line installation and services. Before the incident, someone once revealed that there were great hidden dangers in the automated production line program provided by Bright Electronics. During that time, the stock price of Bright Electronics plummeted. And then? Is there something fishy going on? Alex thought for a moment and said, although there is no direct evidence, we can roughly guess from some details that this matter is likely fake news that the current chairman, Deng Boli, secretly released in order to buy the former chairman's shares at a low price. However, the former chairman didn't fall for this, so Deng Boli took a risk out of desperation. First, he kidnapped the former chairman's family and forced the former chairman to sign the share transfer contract. Then, he sent the former chairman and his family on a sightseeing boat, and then artificially created this accident, creating the illusion that the family's deaths were accidental. Alex added, and this isn't something that Deng Boli can handle alone. Although there is a share transfer contract, this kind of free transfer of shares has not been investigated by any judicial organization. This is because the board of directors has acknowledged this share transfer. In other words, Deng Boli isn't the only one on the board of directors of Bright Electronics who is plotting the shares of the former chairman. Who exactly? I don't have evidence, Alex emphasized. I'm not a court. After I confirm this, I don't need evidence. I only need the facts. I'm afraid only Deng Boli knows how many people are involved in this. It's okay. I'll pry open their mouths one by one. Don't mess around. They're all billionaires and have many bodyguards. Of course, Chen Zhao knew that dealing with rich people was completely different from dealing with gangs. Even if Chen Zhao killed his way through the gang, no one would seriously investigate him. However, if a rich person died, the police and even the government would be under great pressure. This was a society of money. The rich all looked at each other. If so many rich people died at once, the other rich people would definitely feel unsafe. They would definitely pressure the government and the police. By then, the police would definitely investigate to death. Chapter 781. As soon as Alex and Chen Zhao got out of the car, a stranger walked over. And this stranger's approach was something even Alex could see. Alex immediately protected Zherlin. Chen Zhao stopped in his tracks and attacked the man without hesitation. While Niheiman was still in a daze, Chen Zhao grabbed one of his hands and pressed him against the wall. Who sent you? Chen Zhao yelled. It's a misunderstanding. I'm a police officer, Niheiman shouted. He felt like his hand was going to break. It wasn't that he didn't want to fight back. More importantly, it felt like his hand was clamped by an iron clamp. He couldn't even move, let alone fight back. Where's your ID? In my pants pocket. Qin Zhao took out his ID and glanced at the photo. Alex, call and check this officer's number. He's a police officer, Alex said after putting down the phone. Qin Zhao finally let go of Nehaman and patted the dust off him. Nehaman's expression was gloomy. He moved his right arm. You're Mr. Chen, right? Yes. What's up? It's like this. I suspect that someone wants to harm your child. I'm here to protect her. You? Protect my daughter? Qin Zhao looked at Nehaman. Nehaman's face was bright red. I have a gun. Fine, thank you for your kindness, but I'll pass. Qin Zhao shook his head. He didn't need a bodyguard, and neither did his daughter. If he couldn't even protect Jerlin, these useless police officers wouldn't help either. Mr. Chen, I'm doing this for your own good. The people who want to harm your daughter aren't ordinary people. You're good at fighting, but you're probably not their match. Alex glanced at Qin Zhao. Ha! This guy had wiped out an entire gang by himself. His combat ability couldn't be explained by just being strong. Thank you for your kindness, but I really don't need it. Mr. Chen, let's go. Qin Zhao didn't plan on wasting time with Nehaman. However, Nehaman chased after him relentlessly. Mr. Chen, whether you accept or not, I have to carry out my mission. Nehaman planned to forcefully protect him. Qin Zhao looked at him. Up to you. With that, he closed the door and locked Benjamin outside. Come, let Daddy hug you. Qin Zhao couldn't wait to pick up Jerlin from Alex's arms. Alex looked at Qin Zhao. This person was too complicated. In front of others, he was always so tough, but in front of his daughter, he immediately became like a slave to his daughter. You really don't need that policeman's protection? Having a policeman to protect you is a lot safer than protecting Lil Jerlin by yourself. How can we carry out our plan with him by our side? It's not us, it's you. Alex immediately corrected. I don't have the courage to face a dozen billionaires. Nehaman got a room opposite Qin Zhao's. However, Qin Zhao's room was a luxurious suite that cost $2,000 a night. This made Benjamin's heart ache. The most important thing was, this mission was completely his own. It wasn't a mission assigned by his superiors at all. However, there was a burst of anger in his heart, and he had to personally seize those things. For this, apart from his gun, he also prepared some other things. For example, a military stun baton, a carbon fiber rope, a tranquilizer gun, and a stun gun. Now, he just had to wait for those monsters to come to him. Just then, Nehaman heard the sound of the opposite door opening. It was a person in a waiter's uniform. He pushed a food cart into the opposite room. Nehaman immediately opened the door and yelled, Wait! Qin Zhao, who was opening the door, and the waiter both looked at Nehaman in confusion. Sir, what's wrong? I'm a police officer. I'm suspicious of your identity. Show me your ID. The waiter was dumbfounded. Qin Zhao's face darkened too. Mr. Chen, those people can disguise themselves, so you have to be careful, Nehaman explained. At the same time, he took the waiter's work ID and compared it to his driver's license. Your ID is fine, but it doesn't mean you're a good person. The waiter looked at Nehaman helplessly. Officer, how can I prove my innocence? Nehaman glanced at the food cart, and then at Qin Zhao. You ordered all this? Yes. Is there a problem? Those people might have poisoned the food. I'll try it for you. The food in the cart costs at least $1,000, Qin Zhao said. After you try it, I'll call your chief to complain. Okay, the possibility of poisoning is low. I'll let it go this time. Nehaman didn't want his captain and chief to know that he'd acted on his own. Sir, shouldn't you leave now? I'm going to eat. Can you finish all this by yourself? By the way, is the woman with you today your wife? No. Are you going to check my ID? Qin Zhao looked at Nehaman impatiently. Then I won't disturb you anymore. Nehaman glanced at the table full of food and complained about how stingy Qin Zhao was. He couldn't finish all this food by himself. Whatever, he'd go back to his room and eat instant noodles. He was probably the only one who could stay in such a luxurious hotel and eat instant noodles. At night, Nehaman heard movement in the opposite room again. He immediately leaned against the door and looked across. Then he saw Qin Zhao carrying little Jerlin out of the room. Nehaman immediately opened the door. "Mr. Qin, it's so late. Why aren't you resting in your room? What are you doing outside? It's dangerous at night." "I don't need you to ask me where I'm going," Qin Zhao said with a dark expression. This guy had been watching him from the opposite door for an entire day. There was really no end to it. If it was someone powerful, or an army, Qin Zhao would welcome him to protect his daughter. But it was just a regular person. If something really happened, would it be Qin Zhao protecting his daughter or Qin Zhao protecting him? Also, with Qin Zhao by his side, it would be very troublesome for him to do anything in San Francisco. "Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for your daughter. If you keep nagging, I'll call you to complain," Qin Zhao said with a dark expression. "Then I'll go with you." Nehaman immediately changed the topic. "No need. I said that I can protect my daughter myself. I don't need you to do anything. Mr. Qin, I'm a cop, after all. Please believe in the power of the police. You said you can protect my daughter?" "Yes." Chapter 782. "That's what you said. If you get hurt, don't complain to me." "Sure, go ahead." Qin Zhao nodded. "Can I get a weapon?" "Sure." Benjamin turned around, planning to go back to the house to get the electric baton. Qin Zhao had already kicked Benjamin's butt, making his head and face touch the door intimately. "Idiot." Qin Zhao carried Jerlin away. "Ada! Ada!" Jerlin laughed so hard that her saliva flew everywhere. She clapped her tender hands. She seemed to really like Benjamin's funny behavior. "Jerlin, it's wrong to hit people." Qin Zhao looked at her sternly. "Jerlin, Ada." Hee. Jerlin didn't understand Qin Zhao's words. "Forget it." Qin Zhao shook his head. Reasoning with a woman was the most unreasonable thing. Moreover, the woman wasn't even a month old. Qin Zhao carried Jerlin to the suburbs. It was pitch black now. Jerlin was a bit scared. She nestled in Qin Zhao's arms. Qin Zhao found a wooden house deep in the forest. Gaia and the others were inside. They'd caught a cultist today, so they could only stay here temporarily. As soon as Qin Zhao entered the house, he immediately covered Jerlin's eyes. "What is this?" "It scared my daughter." Everyone was speechless. When would Qin Zhao be so gentle to them? Qin Zhao looked at the tied-up lizard monster. Gaia had cut off its right arm and left leg. But now, the lizard monster's cut had already healed and new flesh was growing out. "Did it open its mouth?" Qin Zhao asked. "President, there's nothing we can do," Wes said helplessly. "We've been beating him up for a day. We've used all kinds of methods, but look, small wounds heal after a few hits. Big wounds don't take long to heal. His recovery speed is incomparable to that of a normal person. What kind of torture did you use today?" "Whipping, soldering iron, nail pulling, needle pricking, cut off his genitals. I want to know if they'll grow back after I cut them off." Everyone only had one thought: Qin Zhao was truly ruthless. Jalanash and Patya were about to leave. They were ladies in the association, so it was not appropriate for them to stay on such an occasion. "Forget it," Qin Zhao suddenly said. "Cutting it all off is too much. Let's use candles. I don't know if that thing of his can be cooked." Everyone shuddered at the sight of it. They really thought that Qin Zhao had found his conscience, but now it seemed that they had underestimated Qin Zhao's viciousness. Everyone realized that what they'd been playing for the entire day was child's play to him. Qin Zhao put little Jerlin in Gaia's arms and approached the lizard monster. "I really want to know if your Satan's master will help you fix your balls." The lizard monster struggled, trying to break free from the ropes. Then, West and the others tortured the lizard monster. A candle was lit beneath the lizard monster's lower body. The lizard monster struggled, but it couldn't break free. He let out a series of strange cries. Generally speaking, a short period of intense pain was not as deep as a lasting pain. A lasting pain was enough to drive a strong-willed person crazy. I'll tell you. I'm in an abandoned church in the south of the city. That's our headquarters. Ah, good boy. Qin Zhao patted the lizard monster's face. However, Qin Zhao realized that the lizard monster's face was secreting a sticky liquid. What's this? So disgusting? Keep burning it. That's too much. We've studied it today. As long as we cause a certain amount of damage, its body will secrete this liquid. It can increase its recovery speed. Qin Zhao's eyes brightened. He collected the liquid from the lizard monster. When he returned, he would study it with Blackie to see if it was useful for his medical skills. The more damage, the faster it secretes, West said. Then increase the damage and make it secrete more. No one was polite to the lizard monster. No one would talk to them about humanitarianism here. However, the lizard monster's aura was getting weaker and weaker. While Qin Zhao was collecting the liquid, the lizard monster stopped secreting it. President, I think we killed it. I told you to go easy on it. Why didn't you listen? Look, you've wasted our precious resources. Qin Zhao felt pity. Never mind, he had collected enough slime. Suddenly, the lizard monster leaped up. Qin Zhao was shocked. Then, he threw a punch at it. Crack, flesh splattered from everyone's body. Fuck, this asterisk shoal pretended to be dead. Qin Zhao shook off the flesh and blood on his fist. Go back and sleep. Tomorrow, we'll hunt these asterisk's holes. President, aren't we leaving today? It's too late, Qin Zhao said. My daughter's going to sleep. It's not suitable for tonight. As expected, the president had become a slave to his daughter after having a daughter. He would always consider his daughter first. Benjamin woke up, rubbing his head. Very quickly, Benjamin remembered. He'd been ambushed by Qin Zhao and slammed into the door. Fuck, I'm going to catch that asterisk shoal. Benjamin held his head in pain. Just then, Qin Zhao returned with Jerlin. Hi, Mr. Benjamin. How are you? Fuck, why did you ambush me? Do you know you're assaulting a police officer? Do you have evidence? Aye, goodbye. Good night. Qin Zhao didn't want to waste time with Benjamin. He closed the door. Benjamin wanted to reason with Qin Zhao, but a few more people came from the hallway. One of them was none other than Gaia. Hey, it's you. Benjamin looked at Gaia and the others, his eyes shining. They should be Gaia's companions. They'd caught the lizard monster today. They must have gotten more clues from it. If he followed them, he might have a better chance of catching those monsters. Gaia, do you know him? Gaia glanced at Benjamin. No. Benjamin didn't expect Gaia to lie. Let's go, Gaia said, waving her hand. Ignoring Benjamin, the others all stayed in Gaia's room. We'll hunt the cultists tomorrow, West said. We can't let the president participate. Why? Gaia asked, confused. Although they're cultists, most of them are actually ignorant civilians. But you've all seen how protective the guild leader is of his daughter. If he gets involved, he'll definitely kill without mercy. When that happens, rivers of blood will flow. But can you stop Qin? Gaia looked at West. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.